Chapter 51, Lost City. Long Yi held the rein of ice silk very tightly. No matter how this beast struggled, he didn't let it go. This ice silk was very tough and tensile, so how could this trivial marsh human-eating beast have the ability to snap it? As a SS-class magical beast, ice silk worm Rui's essence, even forbidden magic would have hard time to damage it even a little. As the rein got tighter and tighter, the marsh human-eating beast was nearly unable to breathe, and its struggling became more and more feeble. It once tried to enter the marsh depths, but that damned human exerted his strength, almost snapping its neck, so it could only obediently float up. After it float up, that human would loosen his strength a bit. Long Yi saw that marsh human-eating beast had stopped struggling, and as long as he turned the ice silk towards right side, it would obediently go right side. Turn to left side, it would go left. It seems it understood that its little life was in his hand, thus becoming this obedient. Using this beast as a means to cross over this marsh was however most appropriate. With it, other marsh human-eating beasts would voluntarily avoid them, so crossing this extremely short 300 meters was just a piece of cake. Just when Hale and others were endlessly worried, the bugs flying in the sky slowly settled down. Everyone had their heart on their throat. The settling down of these bugs meant the end of Long Yi and Marsh human-eating beast king's battle, so all of them were waiting for the final result while trembling. When this blood-colored bug's wall disappeared, all the people cheered, as they saw Long Yi mightily standing on the back of Marsh human-eating beast king. This big guy who was known as the King of Marsh was now obediently swimming towards them under the control of Long Yi. No matter if it was blood-red bugs or other marsh human-eating beast, all of them avoided one after another. In this brief moment, at least at this brief moment, Lantean and Hale's eyes showed respect in them. They didn't understand. How did such character remained unknown in Kanglan continent? Hale, your mission reward is mine, don't forget it. Long Yi said while laughing heartily after the marsh human-eating beast king arrived at the shore under his control. No problem, Hale never go back on my word. Hale boldly said. Now they could cross this blood-red bug's sea. Hale was extremely delighted. You all quickly put on the skin and come over. It's almost daybreak. Long Yi said. These marsh human-eating beasts are sure to sink down inside the marsh at daybreak, as they were nocturnal animal. All of them hurriedly wrapped themselves with skin and jump onto the back of marsh human-eating beast king. After that Long Yi moved his hand which was holding ice silk, then marsh human-eating beast king turned around and began to swim towards opposite bank. They crossed this distance of 300 meters in a flash. Then everyone immediately jumped off and landed on the opposite bank. After stepping on the light green grasses, Long Yi excitedly rolled several times on the grassland. For nearly 20 days, regardless of spirit or, Long Yi had suffered maximum torment in this abominable marsh region. Along with the red glow in the horizon, all marsh human-eating beasts had already sunk inside the marsh, only that blood-red bug's sea was somewhat dazzling as before. 6 people rushed to the low hills, and far away at a distant place, they could faintly see the remnants of broken tiles. Hale fished out the map, then pointing at that place, laughing loudly, he said, that place is that oft referred to Lost City. Finally we are here. Then what are we waiting for? We should quickly go there. Lantean excitedly said. He thought that innumerable money and valuables were waiting for him. This true devotee of Light God was too impatient to wait. All 6 people ran wildly throughout the way towards that oft referred to Lost City. While running, Long Yi suddenly stopped running, because the skull mark on the middle of his left hand's palm vibrated all of a sudden. What's wrong? Seeing the sudden stop of Long Yi, everyone couldn't help but ask. This place seemed somewhat not quite right. Long Yi looked all around them. All around there was only light green grasses, which was a very beautiful sight, but dark aura fluctuation had appeared in this place. Hearing Long Yi, others immediately got nervous. They knew the ability of Long Yi, so if he says something was wrong, then he must have definitely detected danger. It's true, something is wrong here, this place seems to have dark aura. Lantean closed his eyes and sensed for a little while, and said, since he was light magician, he was extremely sensitive to the fluctuation of dark aura. Turned out to be dark aura. That is normal. According to legend, Lost City was the city cursed by Dark God, so having dark aura is not strange at all. Said Hale. There was legend like that. Leng Yui added. Then let's continue forward. Everyone be a little bit more careful, since this city was cursed by Dark God, this place is definitely dangerous. Long Yi warned. Then he grabbed the hand of Lucia and Leng Yui. He didn't know why, but Long Yi had a kind of strong crisis feeling inside his heart. This Lost City was definitely not simple. After a little while, Lost City's outline became clearly visible. This city naturally used to be Grand City, merely looking at the incomplete lofty city wall and pillars supporting heaven. It was not hard to see that this city once had extremely magnificent civilization. The closer he got to Lost City, the crisis feeling in his heart became even more powerful. This entire world was lifeless. From Marsh region to this place, they failed to see even a single living things. Everything was very strange, making people to feel scared in their heart. Suddenly an evil wind blew over, then the sky, which was brightly shining with sunlight, abruptly became hazy. At this moment, all around them without anyone's knowledge, thin black mist began to appear, and soon this black mist wind surrounded this whole world. A lot of treasures, a lot of amethyst coins. I am rich, I am rich. Lantean burst into ecstatic roar, knelt down on the ground and began to continuously grab the green grasses on the ground. Not good, this black mist is odd, everyone don't inhale it. Long Yi shouted, and immediately shut his breathing. His internal force sought to be able to support himself for a brief moment, but only he had holding his breathe skill. Other people didn't have it. So after Lantean lost himself in illusions, Barbarian Bull and Hale also began to talk nonsense one after another. For one moment they would laugh wildly, and another moment, they would weep with tears and nasal mucus across their whole face. Lucia released a thin layer of green light from all over her body, and had her eyes shut tightly. From this one could clearly see it was very hard for her to maintain this for a long time. But Leng Yui instead was completely fine. Her body was overflowing with a thin layer of dark chi, and her expression was rather happy. Long Yi was dumbfounded. Did this mean those people who cultivate dark magic were not affected in this place? Seeing Long Yi was questioningly looking at her, Leng Yui brilliantly smiled and said, "This place is hell for other people, but for people cultivating dark magic, this place is heaven." Chapter 52, Dark Magical Beast. Hearing Leng Yui, Long Yi was dumbfounded. This place is the heaven for dark magic cultivators? It seems I myself also should cultivate dark magic here, and then wouldn't I also be like a fish in water in this place? Long Yi thought to immediately try, but he saw Barbarian Bull crazily swinging his mace, and fearing he might have an accident, Long Yi decided to first knock him out. "Yui, look after Lucia, I will handle them." Long Yi instructed Leng Yui. Then dodging, he held Barbarian Bull's wrist with one hand, and other hand chopped the back of his head. Immediately after that, Barbarian Bull's two eyes turned white and he fell onto the ground. When Long Yi was thinking of knocking out Hale and Lantean too, he suddenly heard a shriek of Leng Yui. Long Yi immediately turned around his head, and was frightened out of his wits. At the ground where Leng Yui and Lucia were standing, huge black-colored crack had appeared out of nowhere. When he turned around, he only saw Leng Yui forcibly throwing Lucia out, and she herself fell down this terrifying black-colored crack. "Yui!" Long Yi madly roared, then used Big Cosmos Shift to its limit, then he disappeared, and instantly appeared in the midst of that black-colored crack. After that, stretching his hand, he tightly held the waist of falling Leng Yui. Because he had forcibly opened his body's latent capacity, Long Yi spat out 2 mouthfuls of red blood. Leng Yui, who had basically given up all hopes, seeing the sudden appearance of her beloved by her side, nearly died due to happiness. This moment she had already forgotten her fear, and her silly star eyes were watching Long Yi. Long Yi, however, didn't have mood to enjoy this Leng Yui. This moment, He was inwardly whining about hardships endlessly. His meridian had suffered damage at the time he had caught Lang Yui, who was falling down, and now this black crack was in the process of closing quickly, so he was burning with impatience. If this crack closed, then both he and Lang Yui might disappear from this world. Long Yi gnashed his teeth, and his body strangely stopped in the sky. Then holding Lang Yui in his arms, he flew up. But just when they were about to exit, Long Yi felt a burst of great pain from his meridian, which caused him to stop. But exactly this stop caused them to lose their final opportunity. The crack closed without any news, causing two hugging people to fall downward weightlessly. As Long Yi was in a daze for a long time, he didn't know how long they were falling. At that time, a rays of light appeared in front of Long Yi. Carefully looking, he discovered that he and Lang Yui was in the sky above forest. Pang sound. Long Yi with Lang Yui in his bosom firmly crashed on the ground. He felt great pain from his internal organs. He also spat out mouthful of blood, and nearly blanked out for a moment. Fortunately Long Yi's physique was not ordinary, so he was able to maintain his consciousness. I didn't die, I am really lucky. Long Yi mumbled. Then he turned around, and his expression immediately stiffened. He was not lucky, he was too lucky. Seeing strange beasts not far away from them, Long Yi was thoroughly speechless. These strange beasts looked fantastic oddities in every description, but without exception each and every one had black-colored fur and blood-red eyes, and from head to toe, they emitted evil dark aura, which could make people feel absolutely terrified at first sight. Yui, wake up! Long Yi shook beautiful woman in his embrace, as he thought that she might knew what these things were. Lang Yui slowly opened her eyes after Long Yi shook her, and her first sentence was, "Long Yi, did we die?" Long Yi don't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, "We died. Now our souls are being surrounded by a group of evil spirits." Lang Yui sighed and raised her head, then she said with surprise, "Why are there so many dark magical beasts here? Could it be that after we died, we arrived at the world of dark magical beast?" Long Yi made a wry smile and said, "This damnable place really seems like world of dark magical beasts, but we seems to become their food." Lang Yui was shocked. She pinched her face, also pinched Long Yi's face, then excitedly said, "We are not dead, you big liar." "Now we're not dead, but very soon we will die," Long Yi said with a wry smile on his face. She obviously is stupid, not knowing whether she is dead or not. At this moment, dark magical beast slowly came over towards them. Lang Yui crawled out from the embrace of Long Yi and stood in front of him. Then in an instant, she took out a pitch-black magic staff from inside her space ring, but compared to this magic staff, Long Yi's that magic staff which he had dripped off from that silver-colored wolf king was many times more remarkable. Soul-devouring technique. Lang Yui shouted loudly with her lovely voice and raised her magic staff. Then more than 10 dark magical beasts in the front suddenly whined pitifully, and their body released black fog which came towards Lang Yui. She just inhaled all of these black fog inside her body. Soul-devouring technique. Long Yi recalled a bit and he knew that this was level 7 dark magic spell, belonged to dark elements advanced magic spell. This magic spell's ability was to suck the spirit of opponent to strengthen own mana. This was a commonly used magic spell of dark magician. Since fighting the enemy could strengthen own mana, why not use it? At this time, dark magical beasts began their counterattack. Although the class of these dark magical beasts was low, but just like many ants could bite elephant to death, when tens upon tens of thousands of dread and corrode skill which was enough to cover heaven and earth were thrown at them, very soon Lang Yui was unable to withstand, so with no other choice, she released her life-saving defending magic, Dark Prayer. This was one of the few life-saving magic spells she had carried along with herself. Although Long Yi couldn't move, but he still had his powerful spirit power. So lying on the ground, using his spirit power, he used his optimal attack move, Soul Spiking Technique. Although the name was similar to Soul Devouring Technique, Soul Spiking Technique exterminates souls, unlike Soul Devouring Technique which absorbs souls. Long Yi's eyes twinkled with brilliant lights and vibrant colors. Those dark magical beasts who received his attack began to frantically attack their companions as if they had gone mad to relieve the pressure on their soul. But his spirit power's attack range was limited, so compared to such large amount of dark magical beast crowd, Long Yi's attack was counted as nothing. Long Yi, my defense is not going to hold much longer. Leng Yue turned around to face Long Yi, then she indifferently said as if she didn't care about current life and death situation. It seems the two of us are going to die together. Long Yi smiled helplessly. Now do you regret desperately jumping down to save me at that time? Looking at Long Yi, Leng Yue asked. Long Yi shook his head and said, my only regret is that I was not able to save you. Leng Yue threw herself into the bosom of Long Yi, firmly holding on to Long Yi. She said in a trembling voice, I am perfectly content to die together with you. I hope I become your wife in next life. At that time I will properly serve you, and give birth to a lot of your children. Hearing Leng Yue's this world's most stirring whisper of love, Long Yi's heart was moved beyond description. And just at that time, his blood-colored skull mark at the center of his left palm vibrated. After that Long Yi hit his own head, and cursed himself. Chapter 53, Super Skeletons Displaying Their Might. Hearing Leng Yue's this world's most stirring whisper of love, Long Yi's heart was moved beyond description, and at that time, his blood-colored skull at the center of his left palm vibrated. Long Yi hit his own head, and cursed himself. Long Yi finally recalled that inside blood-colored skull mark, there were 18 super skeletons. Before, because he didn't wanted to reveal these skeletons, he didn't dare to use them as he pleased. But now in this place, there was only him and Leng Yue, so he didn't has to fear anything. Yue, you don't need to wait for next life to be my wife, because we will not die. Long Yi said with a smile. Long Yi, you don't need to comfort me, dark prayer can't hold on for even 5 more minutes. The shield of Leng Yue shook more and more violently, but she didn't have any fear on her eyes. She could stay by the side of her beloved, so even if she had to die, why not? Fool, you still don't believe me? Look here. Long Yi spread open his left palm, and the blood-red skull mark on the middle of this palm emitted strange red radiance. What is this? Such dense dark aura. Leng Yue exclaimed in shock. But even more surprising matter happened in front of her. Long Yi closed his eyes and though about incantation, then his body flashed with black light. After that the sky suddenly crack opened one long pitch black crack, and 18 skeletons wearing suit of armor instantly came out from this crack, lining up in imposing manner in front of them. Leng Yue was shocked. Then looking at Long Yi who was lying on the ground, she exclaimed, you are actually necromancer too. Why can't I be necromancer? Long Yi laughed, as he struggled to stand up, then he issued command for these 18 skeleton to attack. Just after the command was issued, that skeleton holding blood-colored sickle took the lead to rush out, other 17 skeleton also rushed behind it, and all of them began to massacre these dark magical beasts. If Leng Yue was only shocked just a moment ago because of Long Yi's dark profession, then currently she was thoroughly dumbstruck because of those 18 skeletons' valiant display. Were they really skeleton? Before she had also come in contact with necromancer, but the skeletons summoned by them were deathly pale skeletons, and those skeletons were basically very weak with very low attack power, and merely depend on quantity to achieve the victory, that's all. But these 18 skeletons' strength was no less than Sword's Master, and the strength of that skeleton who had taken the lead was even more unfathomable. She merely saw the blood-colored sickle changed into a blood-colored blur, which callously reaped the life of those dark magical beasts. My God, your skeletons are absorbing the mana of these dark magical beasts. How is that possible? Leng Yue involuntarily cried. Today Long Yi gave her too many surprise that she was already somewhat unable to bear. Hearing Leng Yue, Long Yi also discovered that after the dark magical beasts died, these skeleton would absorb the dark chi that floated out, and it seems they were immune to dark magic. Normally with so many dark magic attacks, how could there not be even a slightest bit of damage on them? But there was not even a slightest bit of damage. Instead, after absorbing the mana of dark magical beasts, it seems they were becoming even more full of valor and vigor. By T.Zhuge was really a genius of undead magic, actually letting me refine this kind of monsters. It turned out the things written down in his notes were really true. These 18 skeletons are evolution-type skeleton, a type of unique creation without parallel in the history. Currently the strength of these 18 skeleton have already reached Sword Master level, and Long too have already reached Great Swords Master level. If they evolve one level again, then who can block my path all under the heaven? As far as I'm concerned, isn't this damnable place really one good place? Thinking of this place, Long Yi began to size up this place. The entire world here was murky, giving people a kind of stifling feeling. They were currently at pitch black forest, with the exception of magical beasts covering the whole land. There was no other living things. Long Yi spread his spirit power and sensed the magic elements in the atmosphere. He was struck dumb with amazement when he discovered that in the atmosphere of this place, with the exception of dark magic elements, basically all other magic elements were absent. No wonder dark magical beasts overflowed here. It turned out to be caused by environmental factor. Long Yi suddenly thought, how wonderful the result would be if he cultivates dark magic in this kind of environment. Long Yi immediately told his discovery to Leng Yui, who was spellbound watching those 18 skeletons. Then after experiencing it herself, she became wild with joy and said, very dense dark magic element, compared to the dark magic element present in Lost City. This is heaven and that is earth. I have decided, I will cultivate here, and until I reach the level of Archmage, I will absolutely not leave this place. Long Yi was stunned, then making a wry smile, he said, even if we want to leave, it is not possible. I have not seen even a shadow of human in this damnable place. So even if you become dark magic god, what's the use? I don't care even if we cannot leave. As long as you are by my side, I am not afraid of anything. Leng Yui bashfully said. She herself had never thought that she would express her affection so audaciously, and speak out embarrassing words of love. Long Yi said nothing, just gently took Leng Yui in his embrace. Suddenly, Long Yi felt a burst of sharp pain in the meridians of his whole body, then he couldn't help but let out muffled groan. Long Yi, what's going on with you? Leng Yui got out from bosom of Long Yi, and was aghast to discover the blood was spilling out from the corner of Long Yi's mouth. This moment, she recalled that Long Yi was injured. It's nothing, just now true chi reversed in injured meridians, I just need to meditate and it would be fine. Long Yi comforted her. Then he sat cross-legged and began meditating. True chi reversed? What is true chi? Leng Yui had belly full of questions, but she saw Long Yi had already sat cross-legged and assumed meditation posture, so she cleverly didn't disturb him. At the same time, Leng Yui suddenly felt strong dark magic aura was madly rushing over them, completely startling her. Long Yi's surroundings was already covered by a thin layer of dark chi. This was due to the gathering speed of dark magic element in the atmosphere reaching astonishing degree, causing the magic element to substantialize. Like this dark magic element were inconceivably dense around Long. If at this moment, she meditate by his side, then the speed of her cultivation would be very fast by unknown times. But right now those 18 skeletons were still far away massacring the dark magical beasts everywhere, and she feared the small chance of other magical beasts appearing and endangering Long Yi, so she endured the temptation and guarded Long Yi by his side. Unaware after how long, those 18 skeletons returned back with bloody aura. At that time, Leng Yui relaxed. Now there should be not any problems under the protection of these 18 super skeletons, so she sat beside Long Yi and began meditation. 18 lofty skeletons as if 18 statue of demons stood motionlessly, and whole mountains and plains were littered with corpse of dark magical beasts, and dense bloody smell filled whole heaven and earth. Chapter 54, Conscious Skeleton. Skeletons, this sort of undead summoned for battle, were unable to leave too far away from their master, otherwise these 18 super skeletons would have continuously carry out Long Yi's command to kill those dark magical beasts until none was left. When Long Yi and Lang Yue was meditating, among absolutely still skeletons, Long Tu, skeleton holding blood-colored sickle, suddenly moved, and inside its hollow eye sockets, a ray of strange red light flashed. Slowly, Long Tu turned around and walked straight towards Long Yi. Its speed was very fast, so very shortly it arrived at Long Yi's side. Then after circling around Long Yi, it stood still at the location where dark magic element was thickest, and became skeleton without any sign of life. Unknown time later, Lang Yue woke up from her meditation, and just after opening her eyes, she saw Long Tu standing next to her, caught completely unprepared. She was so frightened that she jumped up. When she saw Long Tu was also absorbing the dense dark magic element at the side of Long Yi just like her, she couldn't help but become shocked. Then she sighed inside her heart. Their master is already mysterious enough, but now even his skeletons are mysterious. In this space, there was no sun and also no stars. The color of sky was always dusky and dark like this. Lang Yue had already awoken from her third meditation, but Long Yi was still motionless and the dark magic element were getting denser and denser around his body, almost wrapping Long Tu who was at this side inside. "Why are you still not awake? I'm already bored to death." Lang Yue sighed. The meditation of these past few days had greatly increased her mana and spirit power, comparable to the self-torture of last 1 year. She was almost about to reach the rank of Dark Master Magician, but she was not happy. She would rather meditate continuously because she didn't want to wake up to face these blankly staring skeletons all alone. And the dark magical beasts didn't dare to set foot on the surrounding forest of 500 meters with them as a center, so this place appeared even more lifeless. Just when Lang Yue was about to meditate again, the dense layer of those dark magic element around Long Yi began to fluctuate. Suddenly abundant and vast aura broke out from Long Yi's whole body, and Long Tu who was standing by his side was suddenly sent flying, and after falling down on the ground, it again stood up with cracking sounds, and returned back with several large strides. Dense dark magic element around his body, and his current face with thin layer of light made Long Yi appear even more handsome. Suddenly shut eyes of Long Yi suddenly opened, then he uttered loud and long cry. After that Long Yi rose high into the air. In the sky, he suddenly dispersed into more than 10 Long Yi. Infinitely compassionate and merciful thousand-leaf palm. More than 10 Long Yi in the sky suddenly shouted loudly. Each Long Yi's arms became illusionary blur, resembling countless hands simultaneously launching the attack. Hong hong hong, a burst of chi energy quickly shot out, and many thickly dotted small holes appeared on the ground, immediately stunning Lang Yue. After that Long Yi descended from the sky as light as feather with delighted expression on his face. Just a moment ago, he had broken through the first layer of Outianju and entered second layer. Advancing every single layer of Outianju would geometrically increase his internal force. Moreover, the might of this world's Outianju seemed much bigger than of previous world. Long Yi looked at those small holes on the ground and shook his head as he thought, if I had used this infinitely compassionate and merciful thousand-leaf palm with 5th layer's power of previous world, then almost meter-deep holes would have appeared on the attacked location. Long Yi lifted his head and looked at the shocked Lang Yue, then helplessly laughing, he said, "Yue, no need to be shocked, your husband. I am not limited to such little skill, later you will know it. Long Yi, you are truly powerful. Just now you didn't seem to use Kia, but its might was so powerful, I think it was comparable to Great Sword's master." Looking at the expression of Long Yi, Lang Yue became even more confused. But mysterious and powerful men always had more attractiveness. Long Yi laughed, and light blue gi suddenly appeared on his palm. It seems his gi was still at the rank of Sword's master. Although he had not dedicated himself to combined gi and Outianju, but Long Yi had always felt that this gi and internal force were interlinked. The combination of these two should not be limited to using internal force to speed up cultivating gi. They ought to be able to join together even more, but Long Yi still didn't have any clue for the time being. Seeing the dark magical beasts' corpses all over the mountains and the plains, Long Yi was greatly satisfied with these 18 skeletons. He patted Long Tu's shoulders and said laughing, "Good boy, you did a great job. Why are you talking to skeleton? It does not understand you." Leng Yuiu said, "Hee, I also don't know, anyway I feel this fellow is different." Long Yi laughed, "All of your skeletons are strange, but this one is even stranger. Did you know, when dense dark magic element gathered around you while you were meditating, it actually stood by your side and absorbed it?" Leng Yuiu said. Long Yi's heart stirred. Is it possible that this skeleton gave rise to its consciousness? But he immediately discarded this thought. All skeletons were remnant set of skeletons. How could they have the ability to give rise to their own consciousness? Could it be it did without thinking? Yuiu, let's go and see what the hell is going on with this damnable place. Long Yi pulled Leng Yuiu's hand and said, he dared to confirm that this place was not outside this world, rather certain dimension space, and whether they could leave this place or not, he would leave it up to fate. Leng Yuiu nodded her head. 2 human with 18 skeletons began to move forward. Just walked, and before they had gone far, Long Yi saw the corpses of dark magical beasts all over, and he wanted to use undead magic to resurrect these magical beasts to open his way, but considering all of their mana was completely absorbed by 18 skeletons, there was not much use after resurrecting them, so he gave up that thought. Throughout the way, 18 skeletons slaughtered all the dark magical beasts they encountered. The class of magical beasts of this region was too low class, and their dark mana was also not very much. Long Yi, why is there no water nearby? On the way, Leng Yuiu complained. Are you thirsty? I have a lot of water. Because of the mission of Lost City, Long Yi had stored enough water and food inside his space ring. No, I want to take a bath, my body is sticky, so I am feeling uncomfortable. Leng Yuiu said with depressed expression. It goes without saying that all girls like to be very clean, but after falling inside this space, she was not able to take a bath, so how could she not complain? Before in the Huangming Plain, they could use primary water magic water ball skill to collect fresh water and take a bath, but in this damnable place, there was only dark magic element, no other magic element were present, so water magic naturally couldn't be casted. Chapter 55, Bewitching Passion in the Midst of Water. 1. Listening to Leng Yuiu, Long Yi also became aware that his body was also feeling extremely uncomfortable, especially after having a breakthrough from the first layer of Aotianju, which caused the filths to flow out from his marrows, causing his underwear stuck on his skin. There is definitely water's source nearby, because it is impossible for these dark magical beasts to survive without drinking water. Long Yi said. Hence 2 of them followed group of dark magical beasts from far behind, and sure enough they found a small river in the middle of the forest. Both side of this river was full of dark magical beasts drinking water. Long Yi and Leng Yuiu immediately led 18 skeletons and go over, and just like chickens scattering when the dog jump over, all the dark magical beasts scattered in confusion and fled. The deterrence effect of these 18 skeletons were truly too big. They had massacred several thousand dark magical beasts, so they released bloody aura of death and dense dark aura, making these low-class dark magical beasts unable to resist. Let's go upstream. Water in upstream is cleaner. Seeing the water, Leng Yuiu immediately wanted to jump in, but thinking that so many dark magical beasts were drinking water here just a moment ago, she held back. Then she turned to Long Yi, only to find him already looking towards upstream direction. Long Yi, I'm talking to you. Leng Yuiu pouted coquettishly. Long Yi replied with a smile, didn't you notice, just a moment ago, those dark magical beasts were drinking water concentrated only at this place, there were none in upstream. And when they ran away, not even a single one ran towards upstream direction. Do you know why? Leng Yuiu was dumbfounded. She didn't pay so much attention, but after hearing Long Yi, she roughly guessed what was going on, and said, so you are saying, there definitely is extremely powerful dark magical beast upstream, and upstream is its sphere of influence. Long Yi said while nodding his head, correct. But all the dark magical beasts of this region are not very strong, so I guess there is self-proclaimed dark magical beast king upstream, and its strength ought to unlikely be very strong too. Then are we going? Leng Yue asked. Of course, we are finally coming across a little bit stronger dark magical beast with great difficulty. Hope it can give my skeletons an unusually good meal. Long Yi replied laughing. Then he looked at Leng Yue with profound meaning. It seems she was somewhat awkward after having relationship with him. If it was before, Leng Yue would definitely took skeletons upstream immediately to exterminate it, but now she would ask opinion of Long Yi, fearing Long Yi would have unfavorable views of her. Two people with skeletons quickly walked upstream, and as expected after reaching the source upstream, they saw one huge snake-like dark magical beast occupying that place. From its aura, it really was much stronger than those dark magical beasts downstream, but Long Yi was not worried at all, because he had 18 super skeletons who were immune to dark magic. As long as he didn't run into top-notch A-class dark magical beast, for others even if he was unable to defeat, he nevertheless was able to defend himself without any problem. In fact, just as his expectation, this little boss didn't even last 2 minutes under the attack of these 18 super skeletons, and kicked the bucket. Well, Yue, now we can take a bath. Long Yi mischievously said, as his shifty eyes began to dishonestly size up the body of Leng Yue without concealing. Leng Yue's face became very red, and angrily said, "Who said you are bathing here? I alone will bathe here. You go downstream to bathe." Yue, you are not sincere, just like destroying the bridge after crossing the river, finish using and you want to kick me out. I'm truly too unfortunate. Long Yi pulled the sleeve of Leng Yue's garment and feigned grieved. Seeing the show of her beloved, Leng Yue chuckled. As a matter of fact, she was also not unwilling to take a bathe with Long Yi, merely when things comes to head, girls were rather reserved. According to her answer, Long Yi understood that this opportunity for two people to bath together would definitely not escape from his claws. You laughed. That means you agreed. I will go in first. You also quickly come in. Long Yi quickly and easily stripped all the dirty clothing from his body, and plunged inside the river. Taking the advantage of time when Long Yi had still not surfaced, Leng Yue quickly took off her clothing and exposed her perfect body, which was worthy of pride. Just when she was about to jump into river, Long Yi suddenly surfaced, then blankly stared at her with his two shifty eyes and showed an admiration expression on his face. Leng Yue immediately jumped in, then instinctively ducked and huddled together. Still, when she saw Long Yi's captivated eyes, she stood up and completely exposed her marvelous body in front of her beloved. In any case, she had already decided to marry Long Yi. Besides, that night she had already let him thoroughly feel out from up to down, and now that he loved to see, then just let him have a sufficient closer look. Leng Yue recalled every aspects that happened since she knew Long Yi, and how she idiotically fell in love with him, while slowly walking towards him. With his eyes fixed on her, Long Yi swallowed mouthful of saliva. This was so very perfect body, two round plump and smooth towering meat bun with two rosy small cherry naughtily standing erect, and without the slightest doubt, its scale was absolutely not graspable with one hand of a man. Her pretty slender waist, smooth underbelly, that scattered dense and also tidy fine hair at her most mysterious place, and that indistinctly visible rosy gully when she took a step, everything were perfect. Long Yi's little brother was already standing erect, and the fire of lust was also already burning vigorously inside his body. Only heaven knows how long it had been since he had let it off. Besides dealing with Long Linger in days just after arriving to this world, hereafter he hadn't got a chance to let it off, and had suppressed for a long time, so how could he not turn into a beast after seeing such beautiful scenery? Leng Yue step by step walked down the river. Very quickly clear river water covered her beautiful body, only vaguely glimpsing the spring scenery. Long Yi, I will help you wash her back. Leng Yue's face was very red, and she didn't dare to look at Long Yi's passionate gaze, just walked to the back of Long Yi and very carefully tried to wipe his back. Her somewhat ice-cold little hands shifted around the back of Long Yi, clearly feeling each and every muscles which contained explosive strength. After wiping for a little while, she suddenly somewhat moved forward, and pressed her firm and upright jade peak on Long Yi's back, and her jade hands turned to comfort Long Yi's sturdy chest. Long Yi. Lang Yui whispered, and a passionate breath blew on Long Yi's neck. If Long Yi still refrained, then he would not be a man. He immediately turned around, held Lang Yui in his embrace, and sucked her little mouth with his big mouth. Long Yi's big hands gently caressed and stroked Lang Yui's that silk-like satiny skin, and his little brother lightly rubbed on her underbelly in high spirit. Eng. Lang Yui moaned and messily responded to the kiss of Long Yi. Her both hands were also caressing the back of Long Yi. Two lips and tongues mutually wrapped for a long time, then Long Yi released her, and looked at her red complexion. After that his misty eyes flashed with intoxicated luster, as her swelling pink lips due to his sucking looked extremely fascinating to him. Long Yi couldn't bear and immersed himself in Lang Yui's neck. There he left behind rosy marks. Her enchanting body thoroughly enraptured him. His lips slowly slid down towards that scared mountain peak. Long Yi's head got inside the water, then sucked a small cherry inside his mouth, and his skillful tongue circled around it. One hand grasped the other jade peak, rubbed it and had the pearl of the breast clipped between the crack of his fingers. Very quickly, two plumps increasingly stood firm, and she was not able to bear the simulation on her too small cherry. Lang Yui let out moans, but she herself didn't dare to believe that she was letting out such lewd moaning voices. Long Yi slowly slid down kissing, and his hands were still held Lang Yui's. Seeing that a fluttering handful of black-colored fine hair under the water, Long Yi felt as if something flowed out from his nose. His lips swept past her delicate navel, and kissed her pubis, then that fluttering in the water fine hair stuck on his face. Feeling Long Yi's lips on the edge of her secret garden, Lang Yui suddenly felt a warm current flowing out from her private parts, so she exclaimed, "No, don't." Just after exclaiming, her legs went limp and she collapsed into the water. Chapter 56, Bewitching Passion in the Midst of Water. 2. Long Yi carried Lang Yui in prince's style from inside the water and waked towards the big flat stone in the middle of the river water. Lang Yui tightly embraced Long Yi's neck, and shyly buried her head in his bosom without daring to lift up. Today am I about to turn into his woman? I'm so nervous. Lang Yui thought inside her heart. The skin of her whole body was covered with a layer rosy color, and her charming body was also rather stiff. Long Yi set foot on the large stone in the middle of the river water, and laid down Lang Yui, but she simply refused to let go. "Yui, what happened?" Long Yi softly asked. I'm very nervous." Lang Yui somewhat tremblingly said. "Don't be afraid, could it be that you are unwilling to give me?" Long Yi simply leaned holding Lang Yui, and caressed her back to ease her nervousness. "No, I'm willing." Lang Yui hastily answered, as she thought, sooner or later, I'm going to give him my body, so giving him early will make me ease, but I am unable to control this nervousness about whether it will feel very good like that night or not. Long Yi chuckled. His one claw rubbed her perk buttocks, while other hand infused internal force relaxing her nerves. Slowly, the body of Lang Yui becomes soft, and she began to frequently give out delicate moans. Hearing the enchanting moans of Lang Yui, Long Yi's blood suddenly boiled. He felt this little girl's moaning sound just like an unusual magic power that went deep into his marrow and inside his most primitive. His little brother, which was already as hard as iron, was propped at Lang Yui's soft place between her legs. "Ah, Long Yi," Lang Yui said in a trembling voice, and feeling that burning hot firm and erect at her private place, her body lightly quivered. Long Yi's sturdy waist began to move, rubbing his at that moist silt. Although the tip was really overwhelmed with joy, but his heart also had a foreign taste. Slowly, Long Yi was no longer satisfied with only this. His hand slowly moved towards her hip and held it, then he began to directly push at the entrance of Utopia. "Ah, Long Yi, Wait a minute. Lang Yui's powerless hand pushed Long Yi's chest. Long Yi stopped, watched her with eyes full of, then said, "What's the matter?" Lang Yu struggled free from the bosom of Long Yi, and stood up. Her long black hair hang down freely, and her ordinary face unexpectedly exudes amazing charm of women. That plump moon lightly quivered, just like congealed fat. It glistened with alluring gloss. From Long Yi's line of vision, he could actually see her rosy silk in the middle of thick forest between her legs. Long Yi endured himself from pouncing on and suppressed his wanton thoughts of love. He wanted to know in the end what Lang Yu wanted to do right now. Lang Yui's lovely face was bright red, and a thin layer of water mist lingered in her starry sky-like eyes. She dumbly looked at Long Yi, and slowly stepped forward. Then she sat on the waist of stunned Long Yi. "Long Yi, look at me." Lang Yu couldn't suppress her embarrassment, still she courageously looked at Long Yi face to face. Long Yi obediently looked towards Lang Yu, suddenly felt as if her face distorted. He thought that his eyes was blurred, so immediately closed his eyes, then opened. Hong! Explosion occurred inside the mind of Long Yi, as he thought, "Oh heavens, what am I seeing? How come Yui's appearance suddenly become like this? This fine face just like that of fairy, those pupils just like water, those fine jade nose, and lotus mouth, combined together is perfect appearance, simply just like a fairy came out from paradise. Ah, don't tell me that I am dreaming. Am I beautiful?" Seeing the blank appearance of her lover, Lang Yu was delighted. She was somewhat looking forward to this, and she somewhat proudly asked Long Yi. With regarding to her appearance, she always was extremely confident. "Beautiful," Long Yi muttered. Then he suddenly understood that ordinary appearance of Lang Yu was her disguise all along. Lang Yu's beauty was different from Si-Bai's. Si-Bai's beauty was gentle and pure, didn't had any worldly dirt, and she was gorgeous that couldn't be produced locally, and was cool with a hint of pride. "Then do you love my this beautiful appearance?" Lang Yu flirtatiously caressed her forehead's black hair. Seeing the true appearance of Lang Yu, now Long Yi felt that Lang Yu should have this appearance. Only such beautiful face match her such perfect figure. Looking at Lang Yu who was riding his body, his little brother grew somewhat thicker. He struggled and thought to wantonly whip Lang Yu with his little brother. "Don't move." Lang Yu held on to Long Yi's arm and said charmingly. Seeing the puzzled look of Long Yi, Lang Yu blushed and said in mosquito-like voice, "I will do myself. You are not allowed to move." Long Yi was dumbfounded. Could it be that this girl is thinking of doing it herself? Just like having ample food and clothing, he also thought to take a look at how Lang Yu intend to do it. So he held back his fire of lust for her. Lang Yu's hips slowly moved backwards. Now Long Yi's that sturdy and stiff little brother laid bare in front of her eyes. Seeing the size, Lang Yu was inwardly amazed, and she couldn't help but was worried somewhat inside her heart. So thick, can such big fellow fit in? Lang Yu bit her lower lip, then her ice-cold jade hand held that burning hot firm and stiff big fellow, then moved her hand up and down. As soon as she teased him like this, his little brother seemed even more ferocious. Lang Yu blushed, then somewhat raised her buttocks, aligned Long Yi's firm and stiff little brother, then she intrepidly sat down. Long Yi merely felt the lower part of his body break through a layer of obstruction and entered into tight narrow warm passage, then feeling, he wanted to moan aloud. But he didn't make a sound, because he could hear Lang Yu's muffled groan of pain, and saw teardrops on the rim of the eyes of Lang Yu with deathly pale complexion. This eager to do well in everything stupid girl, did she believe that anyone could do this horsewoman? Lang Yu leaned over Long Yi's bosom, and miserable said, "My husband, this is really hurting me." Hearing Lang Yu calling him my husband, the love in Long Yi's heart flourished even more. On one side, he gently caressed and stroked Lang Yu's sensitive points of her body, and in other side, he tirelessly spoke words of love at the side of her ear continuously. Gradually, Long Yi felt that warm passage was becoming moist, and Lang Yu also began to move her entirely red body. Long Yi also naturally began to move, Then strong pleasure came through the lower part of his body which made him extremely. After passing through beginning discomfort, Leng Yue also began to lean on Long Yi's body, obviously finding a trace of feelings. Along with the increase of Long Yi's movement, Leng Yue coquettishly moaned again. She tightly closed her eyes. Her cheeks were dyed with light blush just like most beautiful rosy clouds at the horizon. "My husband, love me." Leng Yue suddenly hugged Long Yi, and her snowy buttocks violently moved up and down rapidly. She had already lost herself completely in Long Yi as a man. How could he let woman keep on riding him? He roared, turned over and pushed down Leng Yue, then held her pretty waist with his hand, and began to quickly stir her. Exciting spring scenery of her breast wantonly surging, and with the twitching of Leng Yue's whole body, and screaming loudly, he released inside her body. Chapter 57, Cold Pond. After the leakage of, Leng Yue powerlessly collapsed in the bosom of Long Yi. She was feeling so weak that she was not even able to move her toes. In the first battle, she lost against the counteractive Long Yi, but she was not convinced, so she again took the initiative to ignite the flames of war, resulting in Long Yi, who was in the state of lust for a long time, to take advantage of this chance and began to pursue and attack. He released several times in succession, causing her to nearly lose her consciousness. "Long Yi, where is that little tiger?" Leng Yue, lying on Long Yi's bosom, sluggishly asked. "That little fellow hasn't woken up yet, so I threw him inside the dark dimension." Gently caressing and stroking Leng Yue's white back, Long Yi answered. "Is that inside the blood-colored skull mark in your palm?" Leng Yue asked. Long Yi nodded his head, and proudly said, "This however is the thing refined by that necromancer master Archmage Bite.Zhuge several hundred years ago, and it includes those 18 super skeletons too." Bite.Zhuge, no wonder, only he could refine these kind of abnormal skeletons. Leng Yue exclaimed. Necromancer however was viewed as a god by all the dark element magicians, and they possessed transcendent status in Dark Church. Two people hugging together talked about this and that. During this time, they naturally talked about their respective circumstance. It was naturally impossible for Long Yi to tell her that he was from another world, and he also didn't tell that he was the person who was called Lewd Thief by Kuanglong Empire's everyone. He merely told her that he was citizen of Kuanglong Empire. As for other things, he said nothing. Leng Yue also knew she should not ask, so she just believed that one day Long Yi will tell her everything himself. But Leng Yue however told everything to Long Yi about herself without hiding anything. Originally she was also citizen of Kuanglong Empire. But after she lost her both parents when she was just a little child, her master, that is one of the two big hell priests of Dark Church, Lafa discovered she had heavenly gifted dark physique, then took her in, afterwards becoming Dark Church's Hell Saintess. This position of Dark Church was equal to the Light Saintess position of Light Church. This time because Dark Pope forced her to marry his son, she had to sneak away. And the reason why Leng Yue accepted the mission of Lost City was because it was said that there was a dark magic jade inside Lost City, and the person who possessed it would obtain infinite dark mana. After listening to her, Long Yi was extremely furious. Dark Pope that old guy actually dared to force his woman. He vowed to teach him a lesson one day, but it was also because of him he was able to meet Leng Yue, and in this regard it seemed he Long Yi need to thank him Dark Pope. And with regarding to Lost City's dark magic jade, Long Yi was not interested. He didn't believe that this world had such treasure. What infinite mana? Isn't that merely a nonsense? Time passed just like a white steed flits past a crack. According to Long Yi's calculation, he and Leng Yue probably spent 1 month in this damnable place. In this 1 month, they had surmounted several big mountains, and killed countless dark magical beasts. Now both of them were already tired of this massacring life. Because of this special environment here, Leng Yue not only entered Master Magician realm, she had indistinctly broke through and entered to Mage realm. And the dark magic element of Long Yi's sea of consciousness was already dense enough to form a paste, but don't know why, he could only fire at most rank 7 magic. And in theory with such dense dark magic element, He should have already reached Dark Master Magician realm. This moment, Long Yi and Leng Yue were dazedly standing on the ground with steep cliff in front of them. Two people looked at each other in dismay. Finally, after innumerable trials and tribulations, they reached here where there actually wasn't any path. Could it be that they were truly trapped here forever? 18 super skeletons were faithfully standing behind them. After absorbing the mana of countless dark magical beasts, the strength of all these skeletons had greatly advanced, and their armors had also clearly become a lot thicker. Long Yi, what do we do now? Earnestly looking at her beloved, Leng Yue asked. Staying in this goddamn place for so long, she had already thrown off those brave words of earlier time on the back of her mind. Now if she had the ability to leave, then she didn't want to stay here even for a minute. If it weren't for Long Yi by her side, then she might have already gone crazy. Long Yi shrugged his shoulder, and sighed with a smile. Don't get impatient, we will definitely get out. Long Yi leaned on the cliff and was lost in thought. Don't look at how confidently he spoke like that. As a matter of fact, he was not one bit confided inside his heart. Perhaps this might be a dead space, where one could only enter but cannot leave. Leng Yue glanced all around, suddenly discovered small pool not far away, so she went over to wash her hand. Just after she put in her hand inside the water, she screamed and withdrew out her hand. Long Yi was startled, thought she was in danger, so he immediately rushed over and appeared in front of her and asked anxiously, "What happened? This water is very cold." Leng Yue answered while covering her hand. Long Yi helplessly smiled. Leng Yue was flustered like this, so he thought something had happened to her. He pulled her covered hand. Suddenly his complexion changed, because her fingers unexpectedly were frostbitten. This shows that this water was not ordinarily cold. Long Yi held her hand, and circulate internal force of Altianju to disperse her fingers cold. Simultaneously a big question appeared in his mind. Seeing her fingers frostbite's degree, the temperature of the water of this pool must be at least below -100 degrees centigrade, but this water however was not frozen, and also was not emitting cold air like a cold pond, even to the extent that even standing at its edge, one could not feel a hint of coldness. Long Yi picked up a branch, and threw it into this pool. The color of this branch quickly changed, then sunk down. Long Yi muttered to himself for a little while, then covering his hand with internal force, he extended his hand towards the pool. Despite the obstruction of internal force, he still felt a burst of ice-coldness sensation, but it was still within the bearable limit. Intuition told him that this small pool was the key for whether they could go out or not. "Yue, wait here for me, I will go down and take a look." Long Yi turned around and said to Long Yue. Leng Yue immediately tightly held Long Yi's arm, and opposed. "Don't, this pool is strange. If by any chance you are in danger, what will I do?" "It's fine, this pool is a little bit cold, but it doesn't trouble me even a bit, and whether we can find a way out or not is certainly within it." Long Yi's big hand comforted Leng Yue's cheek and softly said, "But, do you still distrust me? Wait for me here, I will come up very quickly." Long Yi interrupted Leng Yue. Leng Yue saw Long Yi's resolute face, and she knew that it was unlikely for him to change his decision in any case, so this moment she only had the option to believe in him. So she placed her little hand on the big hand of Long Yi which was located on her face, and rubbing her little face on his hand, she said, "I believe in you, but you must be careful. If something happened to you, I will absolutely not live alone." Long Yi knew that Leng Yue would do what she says, so he sternly declared, "As long as you do not see my corpse, don't believe that I am already dead. Your husband's life is very long, you know." Leng Yue empathetically nodded her head. From this time on, this sentence will always engrave in her heart. As long as she don't see the corpse of Long Yi, she will never believe he was already dead. Chapter 58, Secret Cave in the Bottom of a Pond. Long Yi took in Long Tu inside the dark dimension space, and left behind other 17 super skeletons to protect Leng Yue. "I'm going, you must be careful." Long Yi bent over and kissed the lips of Leng Yue, and deeply looked at her beautiful eyes. wanting to transmit his confidence to her. Lang Yue opened her mouth, but she suddenly felt as if something was blocking her throat, and a layer of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes, but she still nodded vigorously. She probably might never thought that she, a dignified Hell Saintess, would worry about a man like this in the past. Long Yi took a deep breath, covered his whole body with internal force of Altianju, then after making a gesture of no need to worry towards Lang Yue, he directly plunged into this small cold pool. The water inside this small cold pool was extremely clear, however was very deep, and couldn't even see its bottom. Long Yi dived down, and burst of bones piercing coldness attacked him through the internal force protecting him. Fortunately it was immediately dissolved by the internal force inside his body, otherwise Long Yi would have changed into a human popsicle. Approximately even after half an hour, Long Yi still hadn't reached the bottom. Furthermore, he discovered one extremely strange phenomenon. Originally while diving down, the buoyancy was large, but the more he dived down this cold pond, the more the buoyancy became smaller and the pressure would also push him downwards. So Long Yi's speed of diving downwards instead became faster and faster, but if it was not the case that his body was being protected by internal force, all of his internal organs would have already crushed by this hydraulic pressure. Deep in the water, there was no lights coming in, but with Long Yi's eyesights, it was nothing serious. Suddenly, Long Yi detected one white-colored light flashing below his body. At this moment, the temperature of the water was so low that his arms and legs were already somewhat rigid. Diving closer, there were more and more white-colored lights. They simply were close and numerous, filling up whole waters. Suddenly, Long Yi stopped by supporting his body on the periphery's rock. Now his heart was both startled and delighted. Startled because those white specks were fishes emitting white lights, but the whole body of these fishes were covered with a kind of scale armor, and also that row of sharp tooth extending out their flat head. This shows that these strange fishes were absolutely not friendly crops. Delighted because the rock inside the area of these strange fishes had one fan-shaped tunnel entrance. However, water was not flowing into it. It might be assumed that there was completely different world inside, or perhaps the exit of this space. Long Yi worriedly looked at those huge number of strange shoal of fish, and thought, it seems the attack of these strange fishes are not weak. Can I rush past them? Should I attack them? The effect of dark magic inside water is not too big. Why did this damnable place not have other magic element beside dark magic element? So use internal force to attack? My internal force's moves consumption is so big that afterwards I will not have any surplus left to protect myself. Key. No need to consider. Then, spirit attack? Dealing with so many strange shoals of fishes with spirit attack will exhaust me to death. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. Without using spirit attack, can't he use spirit to protect? Or can't he use spirit power to open a passage? Long Yi visually estimated the possibility. Long Yi no longer hesitated, as his hands and legs were already feeling a bit numb. Since he already had an idea, under the command of Long Yi, his powerful spirit power went forward to scout. First his condensed invisible spirit power bypassed those strange fishes and directly reached that fan-shaped cave entrance. Then his condensed spirit power slowly spread, and this spirit power forced those strange fishes to retreat. In this fashion, an invisible spirit power passage was formed from Long Yi to cave entrance, and all around this passage, there were those thickly dotted strange fishes. Seeing he succeed in making spirit passage, Long Yi madly circulated out Yanju to its limit. Then just like a sharp arrow he rushed along the passage, and discovering the intrusion of alien, those shoal of strange fish began rioting, but all of them were obstructed by spirit power. When Long Yi almost reached the cave entrance, a burst of dizziness suddenly appeared in his head, and his spirit power began to disappear quickly. Long Yi was shocked inside his heart. He knew that this was the consequence of using such amount of spirit power, but right now there was no alternative. Long Yi just forcedly gritted his teeth and moved forward. If he stopped now, then he would definitely die without leaving behind even bones. Urging his internal force to move, just like a cannonball, he shot to the cave entrance and enter it, but at that moment, He felt severe pain coming through his legs. Only after rolling several times inside the cave, Long Yi stopped. Then sitting up he discovered several bleeding wounds on his lower leg. Without guessing, he knew that these were caused by the bite of those strange fishes' sharp teeth. Long Yi was struck dumb with amazement. He knew his speed, and he had also concentrated almost all of his internal force on his legs. But those crowd of strange fish, however, was able to pierce through his defense of internal force and bit him. Had to say they were extremely fierce. Fortunately, those strange fishes were not poisonous, and the wounds were also merely superficial wound, so Long Yi just stopped bleeding, and there was not any big obstruction in his movement. This moment Long Yi began to carefully size up this fan-shaped cave. He was surprised to discover the walls of this cave was very smooth. The end of this cave couldn't be seen, and at the interval of 50 meters or so, there were two small white-colored magic lamp on either side of cave wall which illuminated this cave. At first glance, it appeared just like a passage leading to heaven. After restoring his energy for a while, he stood up, and walked towards the depth of the passage. Soon after walking, Long Yi stopped, and alertly looked at both sides of passage, then discovered rows of lifelike people statues, dressed in clothing of different profession, holding different weapons, and that ferocious expression on their face was the only thing identical among them. Long Yi felt these statues were rather odd. He didn't dare to rashly pass through the middle of them, but he had no other choice but to pass. Long Yi looked at the height of passage, then lightly stepping on the ground, he jumped and lightly stamping on the wall he thought to cross from the sky. But when Long Yi's foot passed first statue, just like a chain reaction to this, all statues unexpectedly came back to life. Their petrified appearance quickly disappeared, and they immediately threw a magic and ki attack towards Long Yi, who was in the process of leaping into roofs and vaulting over walls. Wah fuck, hellfire, and world of snow and ice. Didn't this damnable place not have other magic elements? Long Yi was immediately in a difficult position, and using big cosmos shift in the sky, he retreated, leaving behind those words and after images. And when he moved back, the strange thing was, all of these people again petrified into statues. Long Yi estimated that there were probably more than 100 of these statues. From that magic and ki attack they had fired just a moment ago, he discovered that most of them were advanced magicians and advanced fighters. But among them, there were also mage and swords master. That rank 10 magic world of ice and snow plus that dark blue ki proved this point. What's to be done? Unable to defeat all of them, then there was some certainty with the prerequisite that no other things block the way in front, otherwise honorably return back. But having reached this stage, it was impossible for Long Yi to turn back. So his only choice was to try. Long Yi was never a sloppy person. Once he decide a thing, he would immediately put it to action. Pushing big cosmos shift to its highest limit, Long Yi's body changed into a blur, and taking advantage of 2 seconds required to dispel petrification, he rushed past them at full speed. Without decreasing his speed, he dashed ahead, and the sound of magic attacks smashing walls came from behind him. Long Yi turned his head, saw more than 100 experts were left far behind, but they were still chasing him. Unlucky, why are these things not turning into statues again? Long Yi ran away while complaining and was praying to not run into anything in front of him. But some people were born with comparatively bad luck, truly happening what he was afraid to happen. It seems unlucky peoples truly can have their teeth freeze while drinking cold water. Gritting his teeth, Long Yi stopped, then made a wry smile as the passage in front of him had a statue of huge magical beasts which completely blocked the path forward. Chapter 59, Violent Lightning Beast. Looking at this huge magical beast statue in front of him, Long Yi suddenly felt it looked somewhat familiar, as if he had seen it somewhere before. But this moment he didn't have any time to think, as the pursuers behind him were already getting closer. Long Yi looked behind, again looked at this huge guy in front of him, and then rushed forward gritting his teeth, until the final moment. Who knows what would happen? Fact proved that Long Yi's misfortune was still going on. The instant Long Yi approached, The petrification of this magical beast began to dispel quickly. Long Yi madly roared, entire person changed into blur, and from that small space between the waist and stone wall, he passed this magical beast. Suddenly, Long Yi felt that he saw a spacious space before his eyes, but before he had time to size up, more than 10 lightning descended from heaven striking his body. Long Yi felt a burst of numbness all over his body, his whole clothing instantly changed into broken bits, and his whole body fell backward just like a corpse, and the lighting on his skin scattered on the ground. It turned out to be SS-class Violent Lightning Beast, and I was thinking why it was so familiar? Long Yi glanced behind with his eyes. Currently this was the only organ within his whole body that he was able to move. He felt that numbness slowly dispersing, and also sensed a portion of lightning magic element split up from that barged-in electric current entering his sea of consciousness, while other portion being completely absorbed by his body. Long Yi secretly sighed inside his heart. Fortunately his body wouldn't get injury from lightning. Today if there was any other super magical beast instead of this violent lightning beast in this passage, then afraid he would have already gone to heaven to meet Light God. Soon after, Long Yi's body recovered perception. He stood up, move about his somewhat numb arms and legs, then turn around his body and discovered that violent lightning beast was walking step by step towards him through passage entrance. Long Yi took out another set of clothing from inside his space ring and put it on. He was extremely alert inwardly, although lightning wouldn't injure him. However, it could make him temporarily lose his resisting ability. If this big guy hit him with one violent lightning, then used its huge body to press him down, then that might become one of the most sullen dead of Kanglan continent. Long Yi didn't summon Long Tu, because he knew that it was of no use. Super skeletons were immune to dark magic but not to other magic, and while confront this SS-class super magical beast, summoning it would immediately change it into a pile of bones. Long Yi looked over towards violent lightning beast, and discovered its eyes didn't have any hostility. Instead had amiable expression. Right now Long Yi carefully size up this beast that was described as terrifying SS-class super magical beasts in books. Silver purple hairs all over the body, bulky arms and legs, short tail, and one long silver horn on its forehead with pretty decorative pattern carved on it. Didn't look terrifying at all, instead looked little bit cute. At this moment, violent lightning beast walked over to Long Yi's side, and used its nose to sniff Long Yi's body in confusion. On his body, this violent lightning beast sensed a kind of extremely powerful lightning aura, so violent lightning beast felt extremely close. It used its furry big face to rub against the body of Long Yi, then after suddenly roaring lightly, that huge body shrunk rapidly, changing into a silver-purple cute Pekingese, and that silver horn on its forehead also retracted inside its body. Note: Pekingese is a breed of dog. Long Yi was dumbstruck. Books had never mentioned about violent lightning beast having changing shape ability and moreover after becoming small, it looked so cute. At that time, Long Yi finally saw those more than 100 pursuer at the intersection, but strangely they didn't enter, merely stood at that passage entrance. Just at this time, Long Yi felt something fishy. These people of various profession, although had dispelled petrification state, but the expression of everyone was lifeless, as if they basically had no soul. But this violent lightning beast who was circling around his legs was clearly different. That rich expression displayed just a moment ago testified it possessed intact soul. Long Yi picked up shrunk violent lightning beast, directly stared at its those limpid eyes, and felt strange inside his heart. The books stated that the nature of violent lightning beast was cruel and ferocious, but now he was unable to see any of those. Seeing Long Yi had held it, violent lightning beast used its tongue to intimately lick his wrist. But just then, violent lightning beast suddenly used its sharp tooth to bite his wrist, and Long Yi almost threw it out in anger and shock. But subsequent strange phenomenon startled and stopped him. A drop of blood from the wound of his wrist strangely floated, and released blood-red radiance in midair, then suddenly split into two, and each one enter into his and Violent Lightning Beast's space between the eyebrows. Suddenly, Long Yi felt a kind of blood link with this Violent Lightning Beast. Blood contract, how is this possible? Long Yi muttered. A magical beast actually knew the oft referred to contract magic. Moreover, this was highest level blood contact. Long Yi had seen vague records on this contract magic in books. It said very long time ago, basically all magician of Kanglan continent could use this contract magic. They use this magic to make a contract with strong magical beasts, turning them into battle companion, even to the extent that they could use various contract magic against other races. Now no one is able to imagine this. What a pity it was that due to the unknown reason this contract magic vanished from the long river of history. Long sensed for a bit, but he didn't discover any changes in his body. As a test, he ordered Violent Lightning Beast to attack at those people at the passage entrance inside his heart. Violent Lightning Beast jumped down from the hand of Long Yi, body immediately rose dramatically, and one concentrated electric network covered those people at the passage entrance. Then, with the exception of few people on the back, everyone else, all without exception, were turned into carbon by this electric network. And what amazed Long Yi was, this electric network didn't explode and disappeared like his lightning technique. It continuously bring out to play its might, and in a blink of an eye, all those people covered by it were turned into a pile of carbon. This gave insight on another type of usage of lighting magic to Long Yi. Violent Lightning Beast was about to deal with those survivor, but Long Yi issued a command inside his heart to prevent it. Long Yi again picked up shrunk Violent Lightning Beast, and it proudly roared loudly twice. As a matter of fact, his fortune was not bad. After all, he got SS-class super magical beasts, plus he already had those super skeletons. In light he could use Violent Lightning Beast, and in dark he could use super skeletons. Now wherever he went in this world, what master archmage, what sword saint, one hit and they will piss in their pants in terror. After excitement, Long Yi began to size up this spacious hall kind of room. This room was absolutely empty without any items. Walls in all sides and conical roof with scribbling all over them. Long Yi carefully read those scribbling for a while, and discovered that he was unable to read even a bit. With the exception of that passage entrance, this hall didn't have any other exit. But that was not possible. This place was concealed like this and had Violent Lightning Beast as a guard, so there definitely must be some kind of secret. Long Yi thought hard from the beginning and circled around this hall. He believed that there surely must be a mechanism or such thing here, merely he didn't discover it. Even after 10 or 20 laps, Long Yi still didn't find any clue. He thought concentrating his spirit to see those scribbling would find something, but the result was he found nothing. Instead his head spun. Recalling Lang Yui, who was still bitterly waiting him outside the cold pond, Long Yi increasingly got anxious. The happiness he felt when he obtained Violent Lightning Beast just a moment ago, disappeared long ago, and was replaced by heaviness. Could it be that heaven wants me, Long Yi, to die here? Long Yi mumbled, then going to the center of the hall, he ungracefully opened his arms and legs wide and laid on the ground, determinedly looking at that uncommunicative sharp dome. Chapter 60. Evil Dark Jade. Could it be that heaven wants me, Long Yi, to die here? Long Yi mumbled, then going to the center of the hall, he ungracefully opened his arms and legs wide and laid on the ground, determinedly looking at that uncommunicative sharp dome. Looking for a while, Long Yi's eyes suddenly blurred, and slowly become pitch black. In this pure blackness, even his intensely proud night vision ability lost its effect. Long Yi wanted to move, but suddenly discovered that he basically couldn't move. Want to shout, but discovered that he basically was unable to produce any sound. Just when Long Yi began to fear, suddenly earth-shaking change occurred inside this darkness. A red light appeared far away, then it spread rapidly, forming a round of red-yellow alternating explosion impact. Slowly, the shockwave disappeared. Gradually tiny radiances began to appear inside this darkness, then more and more, slowly covering entire heaven and earth, forming a vast starry sky. Don't tell me this is the birth of cosmos? Long Yi thought inside his heart. Most of the scientists of his previous world inclined towards the theory that the cosmos was come into being with one Big Bang. They believed before Big Bang, matter and energy were condensed together inside cosmos, and was so concentrated that it turned into very small with very small volume, sky-high temperature, and maximum density. Afterwards Big Bang occurred, all matters scattered everywhere, and cosmos space continuously expand. Afterwards temperature cool off, those scattered matters formed into various galaxies, planets, stars and so on. Long Yi was unable to understand. Just now he was lying on the floor inside the hall which was at the bottom of that deep pond in perfectly good condition, so how could such illusion appear? In just this fashion, looking at this vast starry sky in a daze, Long Yi didn't know how much time had already passed. Perhaps few seconds, or perhaps already millions upon millions years. Suddenly, stars all over the sky began to fall from the sky, just like meteor shower. When Long Yi was lost in this beautiful scenery, the speed of falling stars become faster and faster, then each and every one collided giving rise to explosion. This explosion space become bigger and bigger, gradually extending continuously reaching entire cosmos. Again earth-shaking change occurred, whole heaven and earth fell into darkness. Don't tell me only darkness is eternal. Long Yi was in daze. For no reason, this kind of though appeared inside the mind of Long Yi. Now his eyes blurred again, so Long Yi rubbed his eyes and looked, only to find himself still lying on that secret cave's hall, and still watching that conical roof. Nothing had changed. Violent lightning beast was still running around him. Everything seemed to be normal. Where is that cosmos Big Bang? Ah, don't tell me I was asleep just now, then have a dream about cosmos Big Bang. Long Yi jumped up and stood. Only this reason sounded logical. What is this? Long Yi stared at the location he was lying just a moment ago. A long strange-shaped recess had appeared at that location. He clearly remembered that there was no such thing when he had laid down. Long Yi squat down and reach out his hand and feel about inside that recess, but he didn't find any kind of mechanism inside. Still he found this recess shape very familiar. Suddenly a light flashed inside his brain, and he hurriedly rummaged through inside his space ring, and took out that ugly black magic wand which he had gotten along with that blood-colored skull. Its form was exactly the same as this recess. Don't tell me this magic wand which is said to have the power of Dark God sealed inside is the key of this dimension? Without any hesitation, Long Yi embedded this magic wand in that recess. Then with black lights flashing, the sound of gears turning came from the innermost wall. And very soon that wall flipped over. Now before the eyes of Long Yi was one awe-inspiring statue of human bundled inside black clothing. If not for revealing two pitch-black eyes and arms, this statue practically didn't look like a statue of a human. Seeing this statue now, Long Yi was rather cautious. He greatly feared that it would similarly resurrect and would attack him. But when his eyes fell on the thing the right hand of this statue was holding, he cancelled his thought to approach near it. Its right hand was pinching one completely black jade piece, which was emitting strong dark aura. With the exception of color and aura, the appearance of that jade piece was exactly the same with that white-colored jade piece he had took out from inside the stomach of Earth Bear. Even if Long Yi was fool, he would know that these two jade pieces must possess some kind of connection between them. Long Yi lightly stamped on the ground and appeared in midair, then reached out his hand towards that black jade in the hand of statue. Strange thing occurred. When this black jade piece left that statue's hand, suddenly many small holes appeared on that conical roof, and blue-colored light shined down from each and every one of these small holes, making a light diagram on the ground, and after a line joined these point after point, it actually formed one big magic formation. Long Yi was wild with joy. He guessed that this magic formation was the exit of this space. He threw that black jade piece inside his space ring, picked up Violent Lightning Beast, then ran towards the passage entrance. Long Yi stopped after he saw 5 survivors standing at that passage entrance. The reason why he didn't allow Violent Lightning Beast to kill them was because he took a fancy to their strength. All of them had entered Great Swords Master and Archmage realm. Long Yi remembered a puppet refining method called Refining 7 Attack Puppet from inside the Encyclopedia of Undead Magic left behind by T. Ziyuj. First thing required to refine puppet using this method was to erase their soul. Long Yi thought that was too vicious, but the souls of these people already ceased to exist, and strength was also high like this, so they were very good material to refine as a puppet using Refining 7 Attack Puppet. Hereafter if other comes to blow against him, he couldn't always leave it to Violent Lightning Beast, causing its identity to be exposed. But these puppets would be different. They could wear cloak in the future when they carry out his order, and after they successfully execute it, he could recall them inside his dark dimension, truly would be unknown to God or ghost. Thinking this, Long Yi strangely laughed. After that he ordered Violent Lightning Beast to restrict all of them with its lightning, then threw them into his dark dimension. Running throughout the way to that cave on the bottom of Deep Pond, he saw those strange fishes were swimming as before. Having the experience of coming in, just like an easy drive on a familiar path, Long Yi made one spirit passage. Next he directly rushed up. Going upstream, compared to diving down, was many times harder. The hydraulic pressure was opposite, so Long Yi consumed twice as much internal force compared to coming down. Consuming more internal force naturally caused the protection of internal force lacking, so feeling very cold, Long Yi was continuously trembling. Finally, Long Yi burst out of water, and looked over. He only caught the sight of 17 skeletons standing by the side of the pool, while Leng Yui however had disappeared without a trace. Long Yi was shocked. He had obviously told her to not run around all over the place. These 17 skeletons would not listen to her order. They would merely stay at the side of this cold pond, and only when the magical beasts crossed the line of their territory, they would kill it. Before he could dispel cold, Long Yi began to quickly move and look everywhere, loudly shouting Leng Yui's name. Chapter 61, Black Lotus. Long Yi looked all around in panic. If something unexpected happened to Leng Yui, then he would definitely become insane. Inside this space, if there was no protection of these 18 super skeletons, then this place was very dangerous. Moreover, throughout the way, the class of magical beasts had become higher and higher, and now they were in the region of highest class dark magical beasts. Long Yi was getting increasingly worried, and his shouting voice was trembling. He vented off all of his fear and worry on dark magical beasts he encountered on the way. He left behind countless incomplete corpses of dark magical beasts throughout the way. Even after searching for a long time, Long Yi still didn't discover any trace of Leng Yui. He listlessly sat down on one large stone. Both of his body and mind felt weak. He didn't understand why Leng Yui would leave by herself. How could she survive in this place where fierce dark magical beasts were everywhere with her strength of dark master magician? If he didn't have these 18 super skeletons with dark magic immunity, even he himself would not be able to move a single step in this space. This stupid girl, bad girl. Long Yi muttered to himself again and again. The rim of his eyes slowly become moist, and scenes with her from mutually hostile into today's life and death flashed through his mind, and the sentiments of these two people had hardened after experiencing life and death trials and attributions. So-called concern about was confusion, because of extreme worry of just now. Long Yi was confused with his sense of propriety. After his state of mind slowly calmed down, he felt something was wrong. Leng Yui was a very intelligent girl who would calmly deal with everything she encountered, so how could she disappear without saying anything? Long Yi hit his head, and inwardly cursed his pig's head. In the beginning he was focused solely on worry, and didn't consider Leng Yui might have left him message at the side of Deep Pond. After Long Yi straightened out his thinking, he again madly rushed back. Then after slightly looking all around the Deep Pond, he discovered a route map carved on the cliff, and above it were words, "Hope you will come quickly." Long Yi sighed with relief, Seeing this route map, he knew that Lang Yue was not that far away. This girl nearly scared him to death. With route map left behind by Lang Yue, Long Yi eventually found a cave on a very secluded place. He didn't hesitate to enter this cave, and not long after walking, he suddenly saw the light. This cave unexpectedly was completely different world. He didn't know how Lang Yue was able to find such place. Just before he came out from cave, Long Yi sensed earth-shaking dark aura. His heart immediately felt chill. After all, this was comparable to the dark aura of S-class dark magical beast. Long Yi wholeheartedly thought about Lang Yue, and had no time to think about anything else. He immediately summoned 18 super skeletons and also violent lightning beast. Then circulating internal force, he rushed in. But the scene before his eyes dumbfounded him. There was merely small meadow and one pond in this place. Looking all around, there was not any S-class dark magical beast, and Lang Yue was also not there. Just then, a giant black-colored budding lotus in the pond attracted the gaze of Long Yi. That powerful dark aura was exactly emitted by it. What is this actually possessing such powerful dark aura? Long Yi inwardly thought to himself. He had never seen such strange lotus. In this not big place, he didn't see the trace of Lang Yue. What's going on? Long Yi thought. Lang Yue was absolutely unlikely to deceive him. Thinking for a while, the gaze of Long Yi again stopped at that strange black lotus. Could it be that Lang Yue was inside it? This thought suddenly appeared in the mind of Long Yi. Long Yi released his spirit power and tried to explore inside this black lotus. Strangely, after resisting in the beginning, it let his spirit power enter. Inside, Long Yi sensed familiar spirit power fluctuation, and he immediately got excited. After getting along with Lang Yue for this long, he naturally was extremely familiar to the aura of Lang Yue. Now he was absolutely sure that Lang Yue was indeed inside. Long Yi was clear that Lang Yue had fortuitous encounter. From the aura emitted by this black lotus, he knew that this was extremely extraordinary thing, and Lang Yue who was cultivating inside would definitely get greatest benefit, so Long Yi was happy for her from the bottom of his heart. Just at that time, this huge black lotus suddenly began to shake, and dark power madly gushed out. This caused Long Yi to unconsciously move back. The shaking of black lotus became more and more violent. Finally it rotated, and then rose to the sky. After that, rotation abruptly stopped, and stayed in the sky motionlessly. Suddenly, black lotus slowly bloomed, petals after petals burst forth, bringing a long radiance of black light, although was not dazzling. However, was shocking. When the entire lotus completely bloomed, light black-colored smoke enveloped a graceful figure sitting cross-legged whose looks couldn't be seen clearly in the middle of lotus, but Long Yi however knew this was naturally Lang Yue, his woman. After black mist totally dispersed, Long Yi's eyes lit up. He appreciated watching that wonderful figurine in the center of lotus, and was somewhat perplexed, but even more nevertheless was happy. This black hair hanging down to waist, and exquisite figurine just like that of goddess, was his woman. Although appearance had changed, but that mix of evil and saintliness aura on her body was owned by only Lang Yue. Long eyelash lightly quivered, then Lang Yue opened her beautiful eyes. After that, black lotus softy descend slowly and lightly, and Lang Yue delicately stood up, completely laying bare her figure without any cover which could cause people to spurt blood. That snow-white jade neck, firm and upright, plump, slender waist, moreover a portion of cold and dismal fragrant grass, all without exception provoked Long Yi's fragile physical and mental line of defense. Although he was incomparably familiar to every inch of this body, Long Yi still couldn't control himself from being fired up. Lang Yue slowly turned her body, and looking towards not far off Long Yi, first she was dumbfounded, then slightly frowned as if she was recalling. Seeing this, the boiling hot blood of Long Yi cooled down, because looking at her, it seems she had forgotten about him. Slowly, the brows of Lang Yue loosened, eyes began to melt, followed by ecstasy. "My husband, you come back?" Lang Yue asked in trembling voice. Then, as if a young swallow throwing itself into forest, she pounced on Long Yi. Long Yi hugged Lang Yue and rotated around twice, Then taking her entire body in his bosom, he asked after calming down his panic, "You bad girl, I thought you no longer remember me. I nearly died due to broken-hearted. I'm sorry, just now I was somewhat confused, and my mind was muddled. Fortunately I recalled, if I forget you, I might as well be dead." Leng Yue charmingly said. Now she was just like that silly and pestering Leng Yue of before, and that strange temperament of just now strangely disappeared without a trace after she threw herself into the bosom of Long Yi. Long Yi recalled how he was so worried after not seeing her after he came out from Cold Pond, so he firmly slapped Leng Yue's that snow-white mellow and full buttocks 2 times. "My husband, why are you hitting me?" Leng Yue aggrievedly looked at Long Yi. "Who told you to not be obedient? Didn't I tell you to stay at Cold Pond without running around all over the place? You know how much worried I was after not seeing you when I came out from Cold Pond?" Long Yi again recalled how he almost shed tears because of this girl, so he again slapped both sides of her butt cheeks, leaving behind few clear red handprint. Chapter 62, Spring Scenery. Leng Yue let out voice, her spring-like beautiful eyes were filled with tears, and her charming body was slowly moving in the bosom of Long Yi, as if throwing tantrum, and as if having hidden bitterness. "You didn't come back for so long, so I was worried sick. Every day and night I waited for you with great expectation, but you didn't come back. If I don't find something to do then I would miss you tremendously." So, embracing the neck with her both hands, and leaning her whole body on his body, Leng Yue said, "I only stayed inside the Cold Pond for less than 1 day. Why are you so exaggerating like this? Ah?" Long Yi was dumbfounded after hearing Leng Yue, then he slowly said, "No, I waited you outside the Cold Pond for at least half a month. If not for obeying you, I would have already jumped down to search you." Leng Yue said with red eyes. Long Yi was startled. He clearly knew that he had stayed for less than 1 day inside the Cold Pond. How could it be such a long period of time? Suddenly, Long Yi recalled that illusion of Cosmos Big Bang. Could it be that split second was actually so long? "Long Yi, what happened inside? Are you alright?" Seeing Long Yi somewhat not in good condition, Leng Yue immediately got anxious. There is a saying women in love were very stupid. This saying was truly not false. What she did not think was, if Long Yi had met with an accident, how could he be standing in front of her safe and sound? "I'm fine, no need to worry. I want to tell you one good news. Inside the Cold Pond there is a secret cave. Inside there I found one transfer magic formation. I guess that definitely is exit of this space." Long Yi excitedly said, "Ah, really, we can go out." Leng Yue pushed away Long Yi, and excitedly jumped about twice. This jumping of Leng Yue caused her those pair of firm and upright full to suddenly surge turbulently, resulting Long Yi to directly emit evil fire. Long Yi didn't care much about anything, he just hugged and kissed her. He greedily sucked Leng Yue's fragrant saliva. Leng Yue merely struggled symbolically for a bit, soon afterwards responded fierily and fondly. Then her entire lovely body limped on her sweetheart's bosom. Long Yi was unwilling as a result of this. His big hands continuously followed down this satiny skin comparable to any silk in this world, and comfort that mellow and full snowy buttocks by rubbing and pinching. Leng Yue gasped for breath. The yearning of many days changed into dense fire of lust thoroughly burning her. She somewhat awkwardly tore apart Long Yi's clothes, and her small hand causally caressed and stroked Long Yi's sturdy body. "Ah, my husband." Leng Yue's charming body stiffened, and her suddenly clamped. Long Yi's wolf claw had actually entered her secret place gently and was stirring up young girl's most embarrassing delicate flesh, even more frequently rubbing and playing with Top's red bin. This young girl's charming body was so sensitive, she felt a burst of limp and numb sensation spread over the lower part of her body. Fine syrup was continuously seeping out, thoroughly wetting her beloved's big hand. Leng Yue, while not convinced, her small jade hands actually reach out towards the direction of Long Yi's big thing under his hip. She thought, "Smelly husband making me feel so shameful. I will also definitely let you taste this flavor." She caught Long Yi's that thick, long and hard, and the burning hot feeling came through it nearly caused her to lose her consciousness. With Lang Yui's that jade hand lightly teasing him, Long Yi felt pleasure all over his body. He moved to Lang Yui's exquisite ear and lightly said, "Yui, you're really great." Hearing her sweetheart's praise, Lang Yui exert even more effort, but because of Long Yi's teasing her everywhere, her little hand which was holding Long Yi's burning hot couldn't help but tighten. Long Yi, who was enjoying now, due to this even more effort of Lang Yui, was unable to suppress himself anymore. He picked up Lang Yui, quickly moved to that black lotus, and moved his waist forward. His thick, long and hard standing erect penetrated Lang Yui's delicate. That tight and warm feeling made Long Yi unable to bear any longer. Without wasting any time he stirred her up. After a long while, Lang Yui was now physically paralyzed on Long Yi's bosom, with a layer of pink on her body. Long Yi caressed Lang Yui, making her enjoy the aftertaste. After a long time, Lang Yui lightly sighed with infinite complacent, and just like a kitten, she curled up and withdrew herself in Long Yi's bosom. Sweetly holding each other in their arms, Lang Yui began to tell all of her experience of these days. Originally, after Long Yi had jumped into Cold Pond, she had continuously waited bitterly for him at the pond side, but even after she had waited and waited for her beloved, he didn't return. So she panicked as well as got worried. While eating she couldn't swallow, while sleeping she couldn't fall asleep. Every day she just waited idiotically watching the Cold Pond, and had quite a few illusions appear. Approximately after half a month, Lang Yui's anxiety changed into sickness. In her mind, she clearly knew that if this continued on like this, even if Long Yi really came back, he would only see her corpse. So in order to divert her attention, Lang Yui began to explore outside, and had battle of wits and battle power against dark magical beasts, actually killing many high-level dark magical beasts. Afterwards, she accidentally found this cave, and entered this cave in the spur of curiosity, soon afterwards discovering this place and this plant Black Lotus which was emitting super strong dark aura. Lang Yui immediately knew that this Black Lotus was a treasure, so she thought to pick it off. But who would have thought that, although this Black Lotus was a plant, it however also knew how to attack. Caught off guard, Lang Yui was seriously injured under the attack of this Black Lotus, but just like without coincidences there would be no stories, Lang Yui's blood with dark aura which was sprayed onto this Black Lotus, actually let her accidentally complete a blood contract with it. After that Lang Yui found out not only could this Black Lotus be used as a weapon, but the cultivation speed inside it was also strangely very fast. After that she excitedly returned back to the Cold Pond, leave behind a route map and several words. Then again coming back here, she began to cultivate inside the Black Lotus. Now she had already reached the realm of Dark Archmage, and was only a step away from reaching Dark Master Archmage. Finished listening to the narration of Lang Yui, the heart of Long Yi ached. As a matter of fact, after seeing this girl missing him to that point, how could he not be touched? How could he not love her dearly? He was also sincerely happy for her fortuitous encounter. He had never thought that he would accidentally get Violent Lightning Beast, this SS-class super magical beast, and Lang Yui would also receive this stunning Black Lotus by using blood contract. The fate of people were so intriguing. Originally when they fell down into the space rift hugging each other, never did they consider that which was difficult beginning was also foreshadowing the arrival of their fortune. Now not only they greatly increased their strength, they even had a blissful relationship between them. Thinking about this, Long Yi suddenly began to worry about Lucia and Barbarian Bull, these two people. He don't know how long it had already been in Lost City, whether they had already left to Huangming Plain, or already. Thinking up to here, Long Yi shook his head, and discarded these type of thoughts. He could only pray inside his heart for them so that they would not have any accident. For the first time in life, Long Yi sincerely prayed Dark God. Chapter 63, Evil Jade, Holy Jade. Long Yi, are you worried about younger sister Lucia? After seeing the expression of Long Yi, Lang Yui guessed his thoughts. She was also very worried about Lucia, but simultaneously also felt somewhat indistinct sadness. After going out from this place, Long Yi would no longer be only her husband. Even though she get along with Lucia, this little elf, but which woman is willing to share her beloved one with other woman? Moreover, Lang Yui was so beautiful, just like goddess, and was a woman with incomparable sky-high pride. Long Yi nodded his head and sighed. It's already been so long, I don't know what have become of them. Lang Yui tightly embraced Long Yi, and encouraged, no need to worry, Lucia is definitely fine, she is still waiting for becoming your woman. Long Yi lightly pushed Lang Yui, blankly stared at her beautiful eyes, then softly whispered, you and Lucia will always stay by my side, right? Will never leave me, right? Long Yi couldn't help but worry. The departure of Sibai had left a mark in his heart. Perhaps feeling Long Yi's worry, Lang Yui idiotically looked at Long Yi and forcedly nodded her head. We will always accompany you by your side, unless you don't want us. Long Yi took a deep breath, reached out his hand to her beautiful long hair, and arriving near her ear, he said, I am well aware of your great grievance, but... Before he could finish speaking, Lang Yui used her two long and slender jade fingers to block the lips of Long Yi, then miserably said, say nothing, I clearly know that you are destined to not belong to any one woman, so as long as I can stay by your side, I will try to accept and properly get along with every sisters. Hearing Lang Yui use these words, Long Yi was immediately touched and simultaneously felt somewhat guilty too. He opened his big mouth and those jade fingers of Lang Yui enter his mouth, then using his tongue, he lightly teased her. The love for Lang Yui inside his heart greatly increased again. Lang Yui bashfully pulled away her jade hand and asked, now you also tell me about what happened to you inside Cold Pond. Thereupon, Long Yi told her all the things happened inside Cold Pond. Hearing Long Yi's narration, Lang Yui was sometime panic-stricken, and sometime excited. When she heard about the discovery of one oval-shaped black-colored jade in the hand of black-robed statue which was inside the secret cave of inside Cold Pond, Lang Yui instantly sat straight and directly stared straight at Long Yi. Why on earth are you so excited? Isn't it just a piece of black-colored jade? Long Yi lightly chuckled. He had already guessed that this piece of black jade ought to be that legendary evil dark jade. Lang Yui blankly stared at Long Yi while sitting on his waist, then both hands forcedly shook Long Yi, and coquettishly spoke, my husband, give it to me to examine, perhaps it might be evil dark jade. Lang Yui's coquettish teasing caused Long Yi's barbarity to come out again. Holding her waist firmly, he pushed up his again standing erect member into her, then the war began once again. Afterwards, Lang Yui took a deep breath, and fiercely pinched Long Yi, making him repeatedly beg for mercy. Long Yi took out evil dark jade from inside his space ring, and tossed it to Lang Yui. Seeing his this appearance, it seemed as if he didn't care about this evil dark jade at all. Lang Yui caught this evil dark jade, very carefully examining it. She got more and more excited, then she exclaimed, Long Yi, this truly is evil dark jade, legendary evil dark jade with the ability to make people possess inexhaustible amount of dark mana. Is that so? But I think that legend is wrong, although the dark aura in this thing is very dense, but also cannot reach the point of inexhaustible. At most it can be regarded as a piece of highest grade dark magic core, that's all. And embedding it on magic wand however might be pretty good use for it. Long Yi chuckled. He still had a piece of white-colored jade inside his space ring, which he originally planned to give to Sibai to make one top-level light magic wand. After repetitively studying, Lang Yui found Long Yi indeed was true, but legends shouldn't be only baseless, and it might be that they didn't know how to use it. Just then, Long Yi had an idea, so he took out that white-colored jade piece from inside his space ring. Instantly, white-colored jade piece send out dazzling white light, and evil dark jade also give out gloomy black light. This one white and one black shine upon each other and attracted each other. Oh, is that holy light jade? We Dark Church are always looking for it, but how can it be in your hand? Lang Yui asked with surprise. Holy light jade? Hearing the name, Long Yi knew that this and evil dark jade were similar type of thing, but Sibai as a light church's saintess, how could she not know holy light jade? Long Yi was confused. Holy light jade and evil dark jade, both of them are in your hand, this. Leng Yuiu was so excited that she was speechless. Yuiu, tell me, what are these two pieces of jade? Long Yi asked. Leng Yuiu took a deep breath, calmed down her state of mind and slowly spoke. It is said that evil dark jade was dark God's spirit tablet and holy light jade was light God's spirit tablet. Because dark and light couldn't be in harmony with each other, two deity continuously fought without stopping. Later in this incomparable battle between them, both deities suffered greatly, leaving behind two spirit tablet in Kanglan continent. According to legend, the person possessing these spirit tablet would obtain inexhaustible amount of magical power in them. So whether it is dark church or light church, both of them spare no effort to search these two pieces of jade. Dark and light couldn't be in harmony with each other. Long Yi blankly stared at those two jade tablets attracting each other, then snorted disdainfully to this legend. Now he thought about it, since Leng Yuiu knew this clearly about this legend, there was no reason for Sibai to not know about it. Yuiu, do you think the saintess of Light Church also know about this legend? Long Yi asked. Certainly they know. In all these last few years, Light Church is also continuously searching for it, merely I didn't expect they fell into your hand. Leng Yuiu happily replied. Her husband really was extraordinary person. Light Church and Dark Church were searching for these jades since they were established, but she didn't expect her husband relaxedly obtained both of them. Sibai also knew, then why didn't she tell, and pretended to know nothing, and insisted to not take this holy light jade? After a long while, Long Yi sighed, and secretly thought, Sibai, you are truly peerless stupid girl. He had never thought that for his sake, she unexpectedly hid and did not report about the matter of discovery of holy light jade. Moreover, even though she knew that one could obtain inexhaustible light mana from it, she actually gave it to him. After seeing this more than deep affection, what else could he ask from her? Long Yi's heart was so moved that it was utterly scattered, and his heart immediately turned sour, and loudly shouted inside his heart, Sibai, you must wait for me, regardless of wherever you are, I will absolutely find you. Long Yi jumped up, raised his head and uttered long and loud cry, letting out all of his stuffiness. Finally, he said in high spirits, Yuiu, it's time to leave this place. Leng Yuiu's beautiful eyes flashed, looking at Long Yi's looking at the world disdainfully momentum, her maiden heart melted. His that tall and straight figure from behind was carved into her every cells, now she would never forget this image until she died. Chapter 64, 1,000 pounds hangs by a thread. T.L, 1,000 pounds hangs by a thread. Idiom. Imminent peril. Two people finished putting on their clothes, and jumped off the Black Lotus, then Leng Yuiu waved her dainty hand. After that huge Black Lotus suddenly rotated, and changing into a wisp of black mist entered into Leng Yuiu's the space between the eyebrows, then a small lotus mark appeared there. This mark however was similar to the blood-red skull mark, it's just that one was in the center of palm and other was in the space between the eyebrows. Moreover, this lotus mark was more beautiful than skull mark. After arriving to the side of Cold Pond, Long Yi took back 18 super skeletons and violent lightning beast inside his dark dimension space, then holding Leng Yuiu, jumped into the cold pond. Although more people, but because the hydraulic pressure was pushing them downward after submerging, so the consumption of internal force was not that high. If it was coming upwards, then that might be rather strained. Just like an easy drive on a familiar path, Long Yi created spirit passage, and both of them got into that secret cave. Leng Yuiu was surprised and was also full of praise towards this uncanny workmanship which was absolutely not within the ability of human. Long Yi took Leng Yuiu into the hall. That transfer magic formation was still emitting dull blue rays of light. But Leng Yuiu however straightly stared at Wall's black-robed statue, the agitatedly stepped forward few steps, then devotionally kneeled down. "O dark god, your loyal follower prays before you, please forgive us for disturbing you." Lang Yui mumbled while kneeling down. Long Yi suddenly saw the light. It turned out this shameful guy was unexpectedly well-known dark god. It truly seems not very bright. No wonder could only carry on underground activity. Take a look at light god worshipped by Light Church. That appearance, the temperament. Furthermore, those 8 big wings that were able to fan himself. Yui, I think that's enough appreciation. We should quickly get out. Long Yi chuckled. Lang Yui turned her head and glared at Long Yi, then hurriedly apologized towards the statue of Dark God. Long Yi was angry as well as found this funny. It seems the brainwashing procedure of these religions were pretty good. In just this fashion, Lang Yui paid her respect to Dark God according to the protocol of Dark Church. Only then she got up and walked towards Long Yi. Now they could finally go out. So Long Yi was somewhat excited inside his heart. He took out magic wand from inside that recess, then pulling Lang Yui, he entered the transfer magic formation. A burst of dense blue light emerged, then Long Yi felt the space around distorting, and everything became dark before their eyes. In Lost City, Hale and Barbarian Bull covered in scares had become meat wall, and still were frantically slashing endless skeletons and zombies in front of them. Lucia behind them was continuously drawing her elven bow, and her every dark green elven arrow shot through a string of skeletons and zombies. Lantean, this nemesis of undead, however, was leaning on the wall with pale complexion. He had casted Holy Light Purify magic for a long time and destroyed many skeletons and zombies. But now it seems his mana was already consumed to his extreme limit. But the Undead Legion was too many, practically endless. Just cut down one, and immediately another undead would replace in. Very soon Meat Shield Barbarian Bull and Hale would be unable to go on. Due to the blood loss, their attack speed was increasingly reducing and their vision had also already began to blur. An axe passed through Barbarian Bull's mace and slashed his shoulder. Barbarian Bull madly roared and smashed the skeleton in front of him. This pain aroused his overbearing nature, and with his bull eyes becoming red, his mace slaughtered in all direction. But the light blue-colored gi on the huge sword of Hale was already rather dim, and just a moment ago, his chest was torn open by a zombie. All 4 people had already given up all their hopes. They were about to lose their life in near future. Perhaps over the passage of time, they would also become member of these Undead Legion. Lucia gasped for breath and was physically paralyzed. Her hands were so sore that she was not even able to lift them anymore. She blankly looked towards sky, recalled Long Yi, recalled Lang Yui, and inwardly blamed herself. If not for saving me, Lang Yui would not have fall down that space fissure, and Long Yi also wouldn't have fall down trying to save Lang Yui. They are all my fault. A layer of mist appeared on Lucia's beautiful eyes. Just at that time, Lucia suddenly saw the appearance of dull blue rays of light in the sky, and space began to distort strangely. She thought her tears had blurred her vision, so she hastily blinked and looked again. A rift suddenly opened in the sky, and 2 people dropped from inside that space rift. Long Yi and elder sister Yui, they are back. Lucia screamed loudly with ecstasy. Hale and Barbarian Bull, who had practically given up the resistance, hearing Long Yi had returned, immediately struggled up from their despair, as if they had eaten a stimulant. All of them had a belief in their heart. Long Yi returned consequently means they'll be rescued. Long Yi had unconsciously become the spiritual leader of everyone. Feeling they were suddenly falling down, Long Yi circulated his internal force, hugged Lang Yui and glided in the air. When he saw Barbarian Bull, Hale and others were on the verge of collapse under the attack of countless Undead Legion, he angrily stared as if he wanting to split open the earth, and vigorously roared. The sound wave of this vigorous roar caused the undeads in front of them to fall down just like cut wheat. This, however, was Shelline Orthodox School's lion roar, full of vital energy, most suitable to deal with these undeads. The efficacy of the abilities after Long Yi advanced to second layer of Outianju was incomparable to when he was in first layer. The sound wave of his lion roar had wiped out all the undeads of his location, and other undead didn't dare to set their foot in that area. Long Yi helped Hale and Barbarian Bull to stop their bleeding. Basically he could use light magic to directly heal their injury, but he still had qualm towards Hale and Lantean, so he didn't do so, and decided to wait for Lantean to recover his mana and heal them. Lucia idiotically watched Long Yi, and her mind was completely blank. The happiness had come too fast, making her unable to react for the time being. Seeing the deadly pale complexion of little elf, Long Yi's heart ached. He walked in front of Lucia and hugged her, then transferred his internal force from her back. Long Yi, I'm not dreaming, right? You're real, right? Lucia murmured, then surrounded by familiar smell, she felt incomparably relaxed. I am back. Long Yi softly replied, then lightly kissed her forehead. Feeling that limp and numb feeling on her forehead, Lucia began to believe that she really was not hallucinating. Then shrinking into the bosom of Long Yi, she muttered, "You are back, really great." Long Yi gently looked at little elf who had sunk into sleep in his bosom, and myriad of tenderness appeared in his heart. Fortunately he came back timely, and all of them were fine. Leng Yui merely stood by one side and looked at Long Yi. She had somewhat complex expression in her eyes, but soon afterwards felt relieved. Fortunately she had changed back her face into that ordinary appearance when she entered that transfer magic formation, otherwise it would be a wonder if the eyeballs of Hale and other people didn't fall to the ground. Long Yi lifted his head, just in time to see Leng Yui's relieved expression, and his mood relaxed. Both of them looked at each other and laughed. Chapter 65, Touched. At this moment, Lantean had recovered some of his mana, so he immediately used two advanced light healing magic to heal Hale and Barbarian Bull. Holding Lucia in his hand, Long Yi looked all around, and eventually felt this place was not quite right. It had already been few months after he had fallen into that space rift, so how could they still be at the entrance of City Gate? In theory, they should have either already returned back or eternally rested here. Long Yi felt more and more amiss. As it turns out, Leng Yui was also questioningly looking at him. It seems she also discovered this problem. Barbarian Bull, what happened after I fell down into the space rift? Why are there so many undead? Long Yi asked. Barbarian Bull scratched his head and answered, yesterday all of us lost our consciousness. Later Lucia woke us up. Only then we knew that you were fallen into the space rift. Yesterday? Long Yi and Leng Yui looked at each other, and both of them had shocked expression. They had obviously spent several months inside that strange space. How could it be only one day? Could it be that everything happened inside that space was nothing but a dream? But barely after a while, countless undead dug out from inside the earth and completely surrounded us. Then from yesterday up until now we kept on killing them. If you hadn't shown up just now, then all of us would have died. Barbarian continued to speak while looking at Long Yi with worship. That overbearing lion roar of Long Yi had invoked his endlessly admiration towards Long Yi. Long Yi, where did you and Leng Yui fell to? And how did you suddenly appear? Hale couldn't bear but asked. Long Yi smiled and with a poker face, he replied, I fear we are also not that clear. Everywhere was pitch black inside. As for how we came out, we are even more unclear. Just suddenly saw the light again. Hale nodded his head and no longer asked another question, but Long Yi however saw a flash of doubt in his eyes. Because of fighting whole day and night, the vitality of Barbarian Bull and others were greatly injured, so they decided to take a rest for a night, then go into the city to explore. Now it could be said that they had mostly completed this mission of Lost City, but for them, the mission of Lost City had just began. According to legends, there was a large amount of treasures, as well as matchless magic weapon, and even the spirit tablet of Dark God in this place. So all of them would naturally not give up at this point. Long Yi looked at those thickly dotted skeletons and zombies not far away, and frowned. Where did so many low-level undead come from in this damnable place? He circulated his spirit power, and wrapped up his undead magic drive away undead technique, then threw it towards those undead. Immediately, Those low-level undead who would cause one to lose one's appetite dug into the earth. The reason why Long Yi had used spirit power to wrap up and conceal his dark mana was naturally because he had no trust in seemingly warm Lantean and seemingly straightforward Hale. If they learn about it, then he feared he had to silence them, because Long Yi didn't want people to hunt him down everywhere. At that moment, Leng Yuiu suddenly appeared behind Long Yi just like a ghost's. Now she was already Dark Archmage, and coupled with that strange Black Lotus, even if she ran into Master Archmage, she could fight toe-to-toe. However, Long Yi was not satisfied with the increase of his strength, although Ao Tianju had entered second layer, but his mana however still stuck at Master Magician realm, and he also didn't know whether this was because he was learning various elements so it was difficult to progress, or not. Unable to fall asleep? Long Yi asked without turning his back. Leng Yuiu softly answered and hugged his waist from behind. Yuiu, don't you feel too strange? We have stayed for so long inside that space, but it's only one day here. Long Yi placed his big hand on the jade hand of Leng Yuiu which was hugging his waist. Wherever there is dark god, nothing is impossible. Leng Yuiu's answer made Long Yi not to know whether to cry or laugh. Was Dark God so amazing, Long Yi? Long Yi softly called out, with some hesitation in her voice. Huh? What do you want to say? Say it. What else is there that mustn't be said between us? Ah. Long Yi gently smiled, then raised both of his hand and reached out to the buttocks of Leng Yuiu and gently caressed it. The caressing of her sweetheart caused her whole body to quiver, and her sensitive body immediately become soft. Then she crooned, "Don't move randomly, I want to tell something serious to you. I think there is some problem with Hale." Hearing this, Long Yi became serious. He laid down his mischievous big hands, and turning around he asked, "Where do you think that problem is?" Leng Yuiu frowned, and spoke after thinking, "Today when I was at his side, I sensed a kind of familiar aura which was similar to us, but I'm not completely sure." "You mean he also cultivates dark magic?" Long Yi exclaimed. "There is a possibility." Long Yi pondered, and after a while he just laughed, then said, "Forget about it, even if Hale cultivates dark magic, it doesn't matter, aren't we also similarly cultivating it?" Leng Yuiu nodded her head, but just then suddenly felt a pull and her whole body fell into the bosom of Long Yi. "What do you want to do?" Leng Yuiu's beautiful face became red. She was somewhat expecting and again somewhat shy. "I want to do a thing that will make both of us happy." Long Yi lowered his head and kissed Leng Yuiu's exquisite earlobe, and his big hands slipped into her warm secret garden with bad intention. Leng Yuiu's charming body became soft, and her face changed back into that of Hellsaintus which would overturn all the living things. Her beautiful eye became misty, and her pink lips slightly opened, as if inviting her beloved to savor her to his heart's content. Long Yi's heart immediately swayed, his big mouth kissed her. That ice-cold sweet taste made him intoxicated, leaving behind a rich aftertaste. Leng Yuiu's body got burning hot. Even the breath she breathed out was unusually hot. She and Long Yi already had many happy moments inside that space, and Long Yi already knew her each and every sensitive spots very clearly. Long Yi teased her until she surrendered, and she herself couldn't and also didn't want to resist this kind of embarrassment. However, this caused her to be addicted to the pleasure of close intimacy in a couple. Long Yi's one big hand comforted the tall and erect jade beak, and other big hand however teased young girl's secret garden. Her extremely thin silk pants were already soaked with her fragrant syrup. "Oh, my husband." Leng Yuiu couldn't withstand and let out sound. Her limp, numb and empty private part of the body made her feel extremely troubled, so she subconsciously fiercely moved her waist harmoniously with Long Yi's fondle. "My husband, enter." Leng Yuiu was rather unable to maintain self-control. Her little hand entered Long Yi's pants and teased his little brother. She extremely needed to fill up her private part's emptiness. Hearing Leng Yuiu's fiery moans, Long Yi held her in his arms. Then with one flash move, he wanted to settle an account. Divulging in, the flame suddenly burned. Two people tore apart others' clothing, soon stood face to face. In the middle of love, Passionate Lang Yui was very fiery. She pushed down Long Yi and straddled him. Long Yi, don't leave, don't abandon me. At this critical juncture, from the tent next door, the sound of Lucia crying in horror came through. Two peoples, as if a bucket of ice-cold water was poured, was extinguished instantly. Long Yi hurriedly put on his clothes and rushed out, leaving behind Lang Yui, who was pouting with dissatisfied lust, lying on the bed. Long Yi rushed into the tent of Lucia. She was wailing and waving her hands in the air to frantically catch something, and mouth was constantly repeating those same sentences. She obviously was having a nightmare. Long Yi grabbed Lucia's hands, and worriedly called out, "Lucia, wake up, don't fear, I'm here." Lucia opened her eyes, and seeing Long Yi looking at her with concern, she immediately threw herself into his bosom while sobbing. Her thin and small charming body quivered non-stop, making Long Yi feel endlessly sorry. "Good girl, don't be afraid, I will always accompany you by your side, and never abandon you." Long Yi lightly stroked the back of Lucia. "Really? Even in death, will you let me accompany you?" Lucia asked with tearful eyes. Long Yi was moved inside his heart. Having so many head-over-heels women by his side made him very happy, and also let him feel the heavy sense of responsibility. He had to be strong as soon as possible so as to have the ability to protect all of them. "Silly girl, do you think I will die that easily? I promise you, as long as you don't allow me to die, I will also be alive." Long Yi took Lucia's head and pressed it into his bosom. "This is your promise, you are not allowed to go back on it, no turning back." Lucia muttering voice increasingly become lower. Because of physical and mental exhaustion as well as getting relieved, she fell asleep in the bosom of her beloved. Her both hands firmly held his clothing, as if she greatly feared he would run away. Long Yi lightly sighed, and laid her in his arms. Night arrived, but was dawn still far away? Chapter 66, showing one's hand. Early in the next morning, Long Yi and his traveling party vigorously entered Lost City. Since hidden treasures were already right under their nose, how could they not be excited? Looking at the half buried inside the ground and the rows of broken down buildings, Long Yi inwardly sighed with emotion. This city definitely possessed magnificent civilization, but now however was bleak and desolate. The affairs of life were too cruel. This place is too eerie. All housings are buried inside the ground. Where are the hidden treasures? Lucia timidly shrunk to the side of Long Yi, and said. She basically was not such timid girl, but generally after a girl has someone to rely on, then she would change and become feeble, because she would become accustomed to relying. "Holly, do we have to dig everything one by one, with so many buildings? How many years or months would it take if we do so?" Lantean said in low spirit after seeing incomplete walls and broken tiles as far as his eyes could see. Holly laughed. "We don't have that much time to dig everything. As long as we dig up the City Lord mansion, it will be enough, because I think City Lord is definitely the richest person in this lost city." "Right, generally normal household don't have any treasure, so we don't need to waste time digging them up. Let's quickly search mansion of City Lord," Lantean suddenly said without hiding his eagerness. Looking at Lantean, Long Yi secretly shook his head. When he met him first time in Adventurer Pub, Long Yi had very good opinion about him, but it seems that was his mistake. Now as if time reveals a person's heart, Long Yi clearly understood that he was greedy and coward person, but also because of his cowardliness, he was still alive till now. A mocking expression flashed in the eyes of Holly only for an instant, then he took out the map from his bosom, then said with a smile, "City Lord Mansion is not hard to find. Lost City is marked with Phoenix symbol in this map, so the City Lord Mansion should definitely have same symbol." Everyone gathered and saw Lost City was really marked with Phoenix symbol in the map. Long Yi couldn't help but remember Yufeng after seeing this. But Phoenix clan was unlikely to have any relation with Lost City. Long Yi looked all around as far as his eyes could see. Suddenly, his eyes rested on one huge mound at a distant point. This mound in itself was nothing special, but carefully looking at this mound, One could see one small section of fiery red thing outside this mound. If 2/3 of that phoenix symbol was covered, then the remaining 1/3 and that section of thing was very similar to each other. I think I've already found the location of City Lord Mansion. Long Yi laughed. Where? Everyone looked at him expectantly. Over there. Look, isn't that fiery red symbol? Long Yi pointed and said. Everyone orderly shook their head. The location pointed by Long Yi was outside the range of their limited sight, so they couldn't see, but this was also within his expectation. Ao Tianju, however, sees the effect of world's nature, so after cultivating it, the six senses would change and become extremely keen, and also would be strengthened with advancement of each layer. After advancing in Kanglan Continent's Qi and magic, the six senses would also change and become keen. But compared with Ao Tianju, it was rather worse. Long Yi led everyone towards that direction. Suddenly, Long Yi stopped, and his complexion changed as he warned, "Everyone be careful, something is not quite right here." Hearing Long Yi, everyone immediately become alert. Just then, Lantean suddenly cried in fear, "Very dense death chi, there might be undeads here." In some place, necromancers didn't need to summon undeads. And especially in this city cursed by Dark God. Long Yi felt all the people of this city have been turned into undeads, otherwise it was impossible to have such numerous undeads. Just then, with a burst of crackling sound, skeletons and zombies bore out from inside the ground. They had worn broken suit of armor, and that incomparable dense aura on their body shows that these were not low-level ordinary undeads like those outside the city. All of them were soldiers and general who had fought hundreds of battles when they were still alive, naturally more fierce and powerful compared to those ordinary undeads. "Why are you all still staring blankly? Quickly kill them!" Long Yi shouted loudly, then with a single swing of his huge sword, he cut off the head of two undeads. Everyone immediately snapped out of it, and began to kill. But several tens of these undeads, however, almost made Long Yi and his group to eat huge loss. All of them had believed that cutting off their head would be enough to deal with them, but who would have thought that these undeads, however, were different. Even after their head were cut off, they would still attack. This error nearly caused both Lantean and Luzia at the back to turn into ghosts. Fortunately, Long Yi coincidentally noticed that, and he hacked those undeads into debris. Long Yi and his group were scared until cold sweat break out from their whole body. Hereafter they became more cautious. Fortunately, the quantity of undeads throughout the way was not many. If there was so many like those low-level undeads outside the city, then they would have really fallen in great trouble. Killing throughout the way, they finally arrived at that huge mound Long Yi had pointed. Long Yi quickly moved forward and dug. That red thing really was Phoenix symbol. It seems City Lord Mansion was buried underneath this mound. City Lord Mansion is under this. Let's dig. Hale said. Long Yi looked at dim sky, and indifferently shrugged his shoulder. Since he was already here, he had to willingly enter and take a look. Searching the direction of entrance door, they orderly used key and magic, and very quickly discovered a fan-shaped silver-white metal entrance door. Above this entrance door, there was one black-colored magic talisman. Unexpectedly was dark magic seal. "I'll try." Lantean stepped forward, then began to silently chant incantation, and with both hands covered with soft light, he reached out to that dark magic seal. But just when Lantean come into contact with that seal, he spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying back. "Lantean, are you all right?" Hale stepped forward and caught him, then worriedly asked. Lantean stroked his chest for a long time, then said while shaking his head, "I'm fine. The level of person who placed this dark magic seal is very high. I can't dispel it." Hale looked over towards Long Yi and asked, "Long Yi, do you have any method?" Long Yi indifferently said, "I will give it a try." He walked up to the entrance door, raised his hand towards that dark magic seal, then shook his head and sighed. "I also can't dispel and open the door." Leng Yuiu strangely looked over to Long Yi, but Long Yi lightly shook his head to her. Leng Yuiu could easily dispel this dark magic seal, and she believed that Long Yi could also do so. But Long Yi however pretended he couldn't dispel it. Lantean was very disappointed and Hale however fell into silence. Then suddenly, his hand flashed with blue light, and as sudden as a flash of lightning, he cut Lantean who was well within his reach. Before Lantean could respond, his head was already cut off, and blood spurted out from his neck. This move of Hale caused Lucia, Barbarian Bull and Leng Yui to shake still, and before any of them had a chance to react, they saw headless corpse of Lantean which was standing as before. Only the expression of Long had not changed from the beginning to end. He could have stopped Hale, but he however didn't. He knew that the reason why Hale had killed Lantean was to show his hand. Seeing that playful look in the eyes of Long Yi, Hale was startled inside his heart. This mysterious youngster didn't even crease his brows when he, Long Yi, saw him killing Lantean. It seems he, Long Yi, had already began to suspect him. Just then, Lucia and others snapped out of the daze. Lucia drew her elf bow, and aimed at Hale. A look of anger and shock had appeared on her face. She had never really expected that this simple and honest team leader would actually kill his companion so suddenly, and Barbarian Bull also raised his mace with anger in his face and was about to rush, but Long Yi however pulled and stopped him. Only Leng Yui didn't react in any way. After initial shock, her face had reverted back to calmness. Chapter 67. This place also has bra. Hale didn't care about the anger of Lucia and Barbarian Bull. Merely looking at the indifferent eyes of Long Yi, he tried to make out any of his thinking from the expression in his eyes, but was disappointed. Long Yi's pitch-black eyes were just like deep abyss without bottom, and they gave him a kind of heavy sense of oppression. "Aren't you surprised?" Hale asked with a smile. He had indifferent look in his face, as if he had only killed an animal just a moment ago. "Do I need to be surprised?" Long Yi slightly smiled and answered with a question. Then Long Yi amusingly looked at Hale, who had shed off that layer of simple and honest mask, and whose eyes was shining with pithy and poignant expression. Hale didn't answer, only stand silently in front of that fan-shaped metal entrance door, and with a muffled sound, dense black chi overflowed from his body. Then pat that dark magic seal on the entrance door with both of his hands. After that black-colored magic talisman began to slowly fade, and finally disappeared. "You cultivate dark magic?" Lucia said with great alarm, then once again raised her elf bow. Long Yi stopped Lucia, signaling her not to get agitated, then said to Hale with a smile, "Is this the reason why you killed Lantean? Now we also know it. Don't you want to kill us too?" Hale sharply looked towards Long Yi and said, "He is the member of Light Church, so he must die, but I however don't have any reason to kill you all. Perhaps you have the ability to kill me, but you can't, because without me it's impossible for you all to leave this Huangming plain. So why don't we help each other?" After speaking this much, Hale paused, then turning to Lucia, he said, "Lucia, were you very surprised to know I cultivate dark magic? Then I fear later you will be even more surprised." "What do you mean?" Lucia asked. "Hey, you can ask your close sister Leng Yui. I think she is very willing to give you a great surprise." Hale laughed. Lucia looked over towards Leng Yui, however saw that she was looking towards Long Yi, and Long Yi lightly nodded his head towards her. "Are you Dark Church's people?" Leng Yui asked, who said all the dark magic cultivators should definitely be from Dark Church. "I fear I'm not from Dark Church like you, Miss Yui." Hale lightly snorted. From his speaking tone, it obviously seemed he extremely scorned Dark Church. Even after hearing Hale, Leng Yui didn't express anything, so Lucia cried out loudly, then pointing at Hale, she said on a stern voice, "Don't talk nonsense. Elder Sister Yui definitely isn't people of Dark Church. She cultivates spirit magic. How can she be Dark Church's people?" Long Yi secretly made a wry smile. Everyone from Dark Church don't perform unpardonable heinous acts. However, Light Church's propaganda turned them into one incomparably evil organization. And all the people of Dark Church are seen as devil who eats human meat and drinks human blood. Don't I also similarly cultivate Qi? I cannot see through Long Yi, but I however dare to confirm that Lang Yu and I have same dark aura on our body. Although she spare no effort to conceal it, but she cannot hide the truth from me who is the same kind. I think she had also already perceived dark aura on my body. Hale laughed. Elder sister Yu, this bastard is deceiving me, right? You are not Dark Church's people and you don't cultivate dark magic, isn't that so? Lucia expectantly looked at Lang Yu. Lang Yu lightly sighed, waved her jade hand, and a black-colored ball appeared on her hand. Then she told to Lucia, he is speaking truth. I truly cultivate dark magic, and indeed Dark Church's people. It can't be, Long Yi. With pale complexion, Lucia looked over to Long Yi. She naturally was unable to accept this. Long Yi rubbed the head of Lucia and said, silly girl, cultivating dark magic and cultivating other magic, all are same, merely the type of magic is different, that's all. But, you want to say all the cultivator of dark magic are brutal and ruthless devil who kills without blinking an eye, right? Long Yi smiled. This light churcha, treating heathen as if they truly needs to kill to the last one. Lucia nodded her head. Little elf, you and your elder sister Yu got along for a long period of time. Did she resemble female devil to you? Long Yi asked. Lucia shook her head. Believe in your own eyes, believe in your own feelings, don't care about what other people says, got it? If you don't believe in your elder sister Yu, that means you are not believing in me. With serious expression, Long Yi said. Lucia looked over to Long Yi in a startled fashion, and also don't know what to think. Long Yi sighed, then he snapped his finger producing a wisp of black flame on his fingertip, and said, I also cultivate dark magic, now do you not believe in me? The whole body of Lucia shook and she didn't dare to believe what she had seen with her own eyes. Then seeing his eyes were becoming more and more ice-cold looking at her, she immediately panicked inside her heart. She feared that Long Yi would get angry, and also feared that he would not want her. As a result, she hurriedly held Long Yi's arm and said in a trembling voice, Long Yi, I believe in you, don't be like this, I'm scared. Long Yi's expression softened. He absolutely did not wish his woman not believing him. This was precisely the most intolerable matter for Long Yi. He don't care anything about other people, but towards his most intimate people he however was extremely sensitive. Barbarian Bull, what about you? Long Yi turned around and looked over to Barbarian Bull. He had extremely good impression of this beast man. He was upright without any scheming and also extremely loyal. Barbarian Bull scratched his head, and replied, I of course believe in you, regardless of whether you cultivate dark magic or not. I, Barbarian Bull, admire you the most. Hale was surprised looking at Long Yi, and was very much afraid inside his heart. He could sense the dark aura on the body of Lang Yu, but couldn't make out Long Yi's depth. Throughout the way, Long Yi had surprised everyone time and time again. His that ghosts-like martial arts, and super strong destruction ability, was not something ordinary sword master could accomplish. Didn't expect you also cultivate dark magic, like this. Everyone is fellow traveler, time is precious, so we should go in. Hale said, then kicked open that silver metal entrance door. Suddenly a smell which was capable of choking people burst out. Several poo-poo-poo sound resounded, then suddenly fiery rays of light appeared inside the pitch-dark hall. Turn out to be the magic lamps on the walls had automatically lit up. Long Yi and his group of 5 gingerly walked in. The hall was full of dusts, but those old furnishings and decorations showed its former days' luxury. Casually taking out any items displayed on the tables could be sold in good price, but they however didn't touch them. After passing through lobby, there was one long corridor without magic lamps. And the magic lamps of lobby also went out automatically after Long Yi and others left. Such superb craftsmanship's design, don't know which genius invented. Blue Waves continent, Kanglan continent, however don't have such advanced magic light equipment. Deep in the darkness, Long Yi and others had to use illumination magic. This city lord mansion really was very big, and it had already been a very long time since Long Yi and others entered it. The mansion had many valuable items, But none of these rubbish satisfied Long Yi and others. Now they were looking for the hidden treasure trove of City Lord Mansion. Now all of them were basically clear about the circumstance of City Lord Mansion. There wasn't any danger, so, after discussing, they decided to go separately to see if there was any secret room or something. Long Yi pushed open a door full of dust, and in a first glance he knew that this was the bedroom of a young girl, decorated in extremely warm and refined way. Long Yi looked over all around to see whether there was mechanism and such. He opened the wardrobe. Various bright-colored beautiful clothing which were extremely unique in style entered his eyes. Long Yi reached out and feel about inside. Suddenly his pupils enlarged, as his finger lifted a pink thing. Then he inwardly shouted loudly, "Bosom bra. This ghost town actually has a bra." Just then, Lucia walked in. Then she curiously looked at that semicircular thing in Long Yi's hand and asked, "What is this?" Long Yi snapped out of it, then with an evil smile on his face, he gave this pink bra to Lucia and said, "This is girls' clothing." Lucia lifted this piece of small cotton, looked left and right of this clothing, but wasn't able to understand how to wear such small thing and also where to wear. Giving you a heads up, this thing is called brassiere, or only bra. Looking at those bulging breasts of Lucia, Long Yi laughed mischievously. Bra. Lucia was confused, then suddenly saw Long Yi was lecherously staring at her breasts. Then she again looked at these two semicircular connected to each other thing in her hand, and immediately understood. Ah, bastard! Lucia's beautiful face became very red. Then she hurriedly threw this thing. This pink bra Lucia had thrown lightly landed on the bed. Long Yi's eyes shined. He directly walked over, picked up this bra and threw it aside. Underneath there awesomely was one fist-sized crystal ball. Chapter 68, Secret Path. Long Yi's eyes shined. He directly walked over, picked up this bra and threw it aside. Underneath there awesomely was one fist-sized crystal ball. Wow! What a beautiful crystal ball! Lucia exclaimed. Then she immediately came over and took it in her hand, and as if she loved it too much to part with it, she played with it. "Yes, it's very beautiful, you like it, then take it," Long Yi said with a doting smile. Lucia continuously nodded her head. She obviously didn't have any immunity towards it. "Long Yi, help me keep it." Lucia handed over the crystal ball to Long Yi and said. Long Yi took the crystal ball, then felt a cool, refreshing and smooth sensation, and he suddenly became aware that this crystal ball unexpectedly had magic fluctuation. He exclaimed in surprise, then tried to input a little bit of mana. Crystal ball suddenly gave out rays of light, and originally translucent crystal ball unexpectedly showed images. First image appeared was one particularly beautiful garden with green grasses, bouquets of flowers, lifelike artificial mountain, and fountain. Next the image began to move and also somewhat swayed, just like holding a video camera and walking. The image displayed a unique pavilion far away, and a supple and graceful young girl was sitting inside that pavilion. She was in the middle of calmly holding a book and reading it attentively, but because she was too far away, her face couldn't be seen clearly. Just when Long Yi was feeling sympathetic, the image began to close in, even more close in, and that young girl suddenly lifted up her head and looked over. Long Yi instantly had a kind of breathtaking feeling. In fact, her fine facial feature didn't reach the level of Leng Yu, but her entire person seemed to have a kind of extremely perfect sensation, the temperament as if spring breeze made people feel calm and comfortable. Just then, the young girl inside the crystal ball showed a slight smile, then opening her pink lips, and spoke something, but no sound came out from this crystal ball, so Long Yi couldn't hear this young girl's voice. And the image abruptly ended here, then again changed back into translucent crystal ball. Both Long Yi and Lucia had blank face, obviously still in daze. "So beautiful, sister, ah," Lucia muttered as if she was in a dream, and as for Long Yi, beside that breathtaking young girl inside the crystal ball, He was even more surprised at this crystal ball in his hand. How did this flourishing magic civilization produce such absolutely brilliant thing? Wasn't this basically a video camera? Current Blue Waves continent, Kanglan continent's magic civilization was merely a toddler infant compared to this. Long Yi, quickly come over here. We found a secret underground passage. Just then, the voice of Barbarian Bull came from outside. Long Yi immediately tossed this crystal ball inside his space ring, then softly said to Lucia, "Do not mention about this matter for the time being, got it?" Lucia nodded her head, then rushed over to Barbarian Bull with Long Yi. The secret path was discovered in study room. Just behind the bookshelf, there was a long narrow staircase leading underground, and at both sides of the stairs, there was a row of magic lamps. "Let's go." Long Yi spoke and took the lead to walk down, then all others also followed him. Just after all of them entered, the bookshelf suddenly closed quickly with a bang. When all of them looked at each other in dismay, Hale impatiently spoke, "Quickly look for a switch." All of them thoroughly looked high and low, however they couldn't find opening mechanism. "Why are we still looking a switch for? Such thin layer, isn't breaking it enough?" Barbarian Bull said, then he resolutely swung his mace to smash it. Only loud boom sound resounded through this long and narrow space, and Barbarian Bull was sent rolling down a long flight of stairs. Only after continuously rolling down several tens of stairs, he stopped, and with blood in the corner of his mouth, he snakingly stood up. A bad premonition immediately appeared in Long Yi's heart. He used magic and Gi to test, and found that this door unexpectedly could counter all attacks. "Retreat route is blocked, we can only go forward," Long Yi said with a wry smile. Thereupon all 5 of them cautiously walked downstairs. After stepping down several hundred flight of stairs level, all 5 of them were dumbfounded. Where was the secret room? This was clearly an underground labyrinth. Several tens of meter ahead, there actually was several tens of passage. Perhaps among them only one was right path and remaining others were path to death. What do we do? Hale with wide open eyes didn't have any plan. "What do we do? Have a salad with dressing." Long Yi replied in a bad mood. Then without thinking he casually chose one passage, and walked in. Seeing Long Yi going in, all others quickly followed him. "Long Yi, do you know the way?" Hale asked doubtfully. "Don't know." Long Yi answered in the right and self-confidence. "Don't know, but you still lead us here. If this is a path to death, then what will we do?" Hale impatiently asked. "Now there is basically no difference whether this is path leads to death or not, because sitting there is also just waiting for death, so might as well take a risk," Long Yi indifferently said. Hale became silent. Long Yi was right, now they basically didn't have a way out. Instantly, the atmosphere became rather stifling. All 5 of them didn't utter a sound. Only a stepping sound resounded inside this passage. After a while, they stopped their steps, because the passage in front again divided into 3 passages, and these passages didn't have magic lamp, so was pitch black. With the illumination of several fireballs above him, Long Yi directly charged into middle passage. After Long Yi got in, others involuntarily stopped their steps for a bit. Long Yi had used fireballs when he entered, but when he set his foot inside that passage, as if he was swallowed, the passage inside seemed pitch black as before. Just then, the cry out in alarm voice of Long Yi came through inside. Next it became completely silent. "Long Yi!" Leng Yui and Lucia simultaneously cried out. Then just like gust of wind, they rushed into that passage. A moment ago, they had stopped their steps subconsciously, which was a kind of protecting oneself instinct, that's all. But when they heard the yelling of their beloved, how could they still stay still like that? Barbarian Bull was dumbfounded. He looked over to Hale, then he also quickly entered that passage. Now only Hale remained outside. He was seized in terror and was rather at his wits' end. Hearing Long Yi's scream, he knew that Long Yi definitely meant something, so wasn't rushing and now just courting death. Just then, the scream of Lucia, Leng Yui and Barbarian Bull came in succession. This made Hale even more unable to muster courage to enter. Suddenly a cold wind blew out from that passage. Hale immediately shivered, and retreated 2 steps, then turning around, he ran back the same path. Chapter 69, Thrown into Gold Cave. Long Yi, along with fireballs floating above his head, walked into the middle passage. After rushing in, he found something was wrong, because, even though the fireballs were clearly not extinguished, he didn't see a gleam of light, only felt their heat and magic fluctuation. Long Yi was startled inwardly, and wanted to return back, but who would have thought that as soon as he retreated, he felt a burst of weightlessness, directly free falling downwards. Then he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. After passing through the pitch-black space for a while, Long Yi merely saw a flash of blue lights, then was directly thrown into a water. Huge force of impact caused Long Yi to sink down just like a torpedo. Fortunately, he had internal force protecting himself, or else he would have suffered injury. Long Yi opened his eyes, only then he discovered this water was azure blue, extremely clean and transparent. After sinking to particular depth, the water's buoyancy began to push him upward. Long Yi silently circulated internal force to increase his weight to sink. He suddenly wanted to take a look at what this water possessed at its bottom. Long Yi quickly sunk down. Not long after, he could indistinctly see the bottom. The wide expanse under the water was glimmering with radiances. Looking at that underwater magnificent light, it was unusually gorgeous sight. Just then, sound of something falling into the water sound came through the surface of water. Then Long Yi stopped diving down and began to swim upward. He suspected that Leng Yui and other had also fallen down. Swimming for a short while, as expected, he saw 3 figure was beginning to float up. Long Yi, coupled with the strength lent by the buoyancy of water, rush upward, instantly catching up to them. After that, one hand held onto Lu Xia and other hand held onto Leng Yui. Because his appearance was too sudden, both women was startled. But Long Yi saw their situation were far from good, so he immediately pulled over their body, then gave one breath to Lu Xia and next gave another one breath to Leng Yui. Both women recovered, and seeing Long Yi, they couldn't help but became happy and again surprised, and gave him a supercilious look. Receiving their flirtatious supercilious look, Long Yi's heart swayed, and his eyes became profound. Leng Yui and Long Yi already had many happy time, so she naturally knew the meaning of this expression on his eyes. She hurriedly struggled free from Long Yi's big hand that was pressing on her breast and glare him, then swam upward. Having Leng Yui run away from him, Long Yi would naturally not let Lu Xia run away too. He bent over, sealed Lu Xia's small mouth, and began a romantic French kiss inside the water. How could Lu Xia resist her beloved's teasing? Even her slight struggle also thoroughly lost strength. Lips and tongues tangled with each other, and Long Yi's big hands was also not staying quiet. One moment rubbed Lu Xia's bulging breast, another moment touched her perk buttocks, and his that burning hot hard-on was rubbing between the legs of Lu Xia with bands separating them. Because their clothing were already drenched, it had stuck very close to the skin, so Long Yi was easily able to feel that mysterious long crevice. This kiss inside the water made 2 people deeply indulged for a while, and when these 2 people bore out from the surface of water gasping for breath, they saw Leng Yui's stiff face and Barbarian Bull's curious eyes. Lu Xia's beautiful face immediately become fiery red, and become even more burning hot. Then shrieking, she immediately buried her face into Long Yi's bosom. Long Yi embraced Lu Xia and looked all around the water. After looking all the way around, he was immediately stupefied. This place was underground secret room of gold and jade in glorious splendor. Everywhere was gold, silvers, treasures, jewels and riches. High-class magic cores were naturally piled up like a mountain. Furthermore, many exquisite matchless suit of armors and weapons were also there. Oh God, even the treasury of 3 large empire would not possess so many riches and treasures. Moreover, taking out any one of those weapons and suit of armors would make people go insane. Just when Long Yi was being shocked, he suddenly felt pain from his waist. Turning around to look, he saw Leng Yui with red face glaring at him, and Barbarian Bull also staring at his lower part of the body. Long Yi lowered his head to look, and immediately felt awkward. After that, mischievously laughing, He waved his big hand and fired one dark barrier enveloping 3 people. As a matter of fact, after the indulgence inside the water of just a moment ago, Long Yi's little brother was still standing firm, and was firmly pushing up his wet pants. "Change your clothing, I don't want Barbarian Bull to see your body," Long Yi said with a smile, then began to take off his wet clothing. "My husband, I will help you." Leng Yue looked over to Lu Xia and said lovingly to Long Yi. After that she stepped forward and gently helped Long Yi to undress. Lu Xia was extremely shocked, and in a startled fashion, opened her mouth. You? She really didn't know the relationship between Long Yi and Leng Yue, because Long Yi didn't have time to tell her, but today Leng Yue intentionally let her know. Long Yi smiled and said, "Little elf, hereafter your elder sister Yue is your real elder sister. Are you unhappy?" Lu Xia instantly became absent-minded, and her expression rather complicate, but very quickly she revert back to normal. Then she also stepped forward and helped Long Yi to undress. Only then she replied with smile, "How can I not be happy? From now on elder sister Yue and I will simultaneously attend you." With the help of 2 women, Long Yu smoothly took off his clothing, and that huge thing under his hip was still in high spirits. Seeing this, Lu Xia this maiden blushed and her heart heat up. The heart of young woman resembles a rabbit always jumping non-stop. Bad fellow. Leng Yue lightly flickered Long Yi's little brother. As she spoke, Long Yi's little brother suddenly grew a bit again, then Lu Xia screamed and turned around, didn't dare to look again. Long Yi stared at 2 exquisite and curvy female body in front of him, and the evil fire in his heart grew even more. He pulled Leng Yue and kneed her body. "Don't, Barbarian Bull is still outside waiting us." Leng Yue opened her small mouth and panting, she said weakly. Long Yi snapped out of it. This very moment was truly not time to walk down the pleasure of close intimacy in a couple. He took a deep breath, and suppressed the fire of lust inside his body. After that he took out a set of clothing from inside his space ring, then put it on. 2 women also coyly took off their clothing, and exposed their. Long Yi couldn't help but size up the figure of 2 women. Lu Xia belongs to petite and dainty appearance, but Leng Yue belongs to slender appearance. Both of them were beautiful women with snow-white and satiny skin. Lu Xia's was plump and forceful just like inverted jade bowl, but the shape of Leng Yue's however was just like fresh springtime bamboo shoots. Both of them were of highest grade among highest grade. In this side, Long Yi was comparing, and how could 2 women don't? "Elder sister Yue, your figure is really great," Lu Xia admiringly said. "Yours also pretty good," Leng Yue said with a smile. Taking advantage of the time when 2 women were wearing clothes, Long Yi's wolf claw again became dishonest. One moment touch Lu Xia, other moment touch Leng Yue, making 2 women charmingly pant endlessly. "Yue, now we are a family, no need to conceal," Long Yi said with a smile. He naturally was even more willing to see Leng Yue's that gorgeous peerless beautiful face. Leng Yue nodded her head. Then her face distorted, and her ordinary face instantly changed into that of goddess, which could drive anyone who see to distraction. "Wow, elder sister Yue, it turned out you are so beautiful." Lu Xia's 2 eyes stuck on the face of Leng Yue as she exclaimed with admiration. Leng Yue proudly smiled and said, "Younger sister Lu Xia is more beautiful than me, because the first one that Long Yi like is you are." Hearing Leng Yue, Lu Xia immediately beamed with joy. The small rift that had appeared between them immediately disappeared without a trace. Long Yi gave Leng Yue a look of appreciation, and said with a smile, "Well, we should get out, otherwise Barbarian Bull this guy will die due to impatient." Long Yi got rid of dark barrier, and saw Barbarian Bull idiotically staring at those neatly arranged suit of armors and weapons. If eyesight could, then he would have already swallowed all the things, but people could only look not touch with eyesight. "Barbarian Bull, what are you looking at? Your saliva is flowing out." Long Yi patted Barbarian Bull's shoulder and said. Barbarian Bull turned around, and was about to answer, but suddenly he paused, then blankly stared at Leng Yue who had reverted back to her original appearance. "She, who is she?" Barbarian Bull stutteringly asked. Long Yi laughed mischievously. He knew Barbarian Bull would have this kind of reaction, so he explained the identity of Leng Yuiu. After knowing this beautiful woman was precisely Leng Yuiu, the attention of Barbarian Bull again returned back to those weapons and suit of armors. Then he excitedly said, Long Yi, can we take away these things? Of course, as long as you take, all of these things can be taken away. Long Yi said with a smile, then greedily looked at those endless riches and treasures all around. Hearing Long Yi, Barbarian Bull immediately reached out to take one dark green thick club which was emitting indistinct fierce killing intent and aggressiveness without any modest. Barbarian Bull grabbed the club, and immediately threw his mace to one side, and after swinging twice, he strangely said, Why am I feeling that this thing is not listening to my order? Long Yi pondered. From the aura emitted by this club, it is definitely a magic weapon level weapon, and they says one needs to drip blood for magic weapon to recognize its master, so he said, drip a drop of blood on it, and try again. Not saying anything further, Barbarian Bull bit his finger and dropped a blood in that dark green big club, then, that club suddenly flashed with green light, entire body actually emitted dim green rays of light. Then several magic characters which meant ruling greenstone emerged from the handle, ought to be the name of this weapon. Barbarian Bull excitedly yelled, held ruling greenstone and madly swung. Each swing gave rise to a dim green radiance filled with aggressiveness. Holding this ruling greenstone, Barbarian Bull stared blankly at this magic weapon and his eyes become more and more gentle as if he was looking at his sweetheart, making two girls chuckle. Just then, this secret room suddenly swayed, and many dark doors suddenly opened on the walls of all sides. Then along with the blowing of chill wind, mournful cry came from all direction. Chapter 70, Sleeping Beauty. Just then, this secret room suddenly swayed, and many dark doors suddenly opened on the walls of all sides. Then along with the chill wind, mournful cry came from all direction. Dark skeletons stride out from inside each of these dark doors. Altogether there was 20 skeletons and their appearance was unexpectedly similar to the super skeletons of Long Yi. Furthermore, several almost transparent spectre emerged floating in the sky, and those mournful cry was coming from these specters. The complexion of Long Yi changed. Spectre was a kind of undead creature, and they were very few in number. Because they are born from great grievance, they are extremely ominous and vicious, and the most unreasonable and hard to deal with property was they were completely immune to physical attacks. Long Yi immediately summoned 18 super skeletons and violent lightning beast from inside his dark dimension space without any hesitation and let them fight those skeletons. Super skeletons against super skeletons. Long Yi discovered the strength of both sides was about the same. But Long Tu nevertheless was exception. It used that blood-colored sickle and took on 3 super skeletons without falling into disadvantageous position. But fortunately, SS-class Violent Lightning Beast however was not to be trifled with. Its valiant lightning attack easily destroyed super skeletons, and only Long Yi and Leng Yuiu dealt with those specters, because only spirit attack could injure them. Although these specters were fierce, but no matter how fierce they were, against Long Yi's super powerful spirit power, how long could they sustain fighting? Before long, these several specters were absorbed into his dark dimension space under his control. Using them while refining, the refined puppet will be even more powerful. At his moment, the confrontation between super skeletons had also ended. With the support of Violent Lightning Beast, these 18 super skeletons merely suffered light damage. Comparatively speaking, Long Tu had its 2 chest bone broken which was the heaviest damage, but its 3 opposing skeletons however were chopped into a pile of bone fragments with his blood-colored sickle. Long Yi felt sorry as used Undead Magic's repair technique to piece together those 2 broken bones, then patting its shoulder with his big hand, he said, "Brother, next time be a bit more careful. If you have 3 long and 2 short, how can I live? T.L. 3 long and 2 short equals unforeseen disaster." Leng Yuiu was long since accustomed to see Long Yi talking to this skeleton inside that space, so now it instead was Lucia and Barbarian Bull turn to be shocked and look at Long Yi questioningly. They had never thought that Long Yi actually was necromancer. Moreover, they saw Long Yi talking to lifeless skeleton. Long Yi recalled all these 18 skeletons back to his dark dimension space, so he was again unable to discover that strange red light flashing in the pitch-black empty eye socket of Long Tu. He also wanted to recall Violent Lightning Beast, but who would have thought that, after it reduced its size, Lucia however held it in her arms without letting it go. That lovable appearance had immediately conquered her heart. Long Yi, little 3? At this time, Lucia recalled that small tiger Long Yi called little 3. It is still sleeping. Long Yi said with a smile. That gluttonous kid had slept once and was still sleeping for this long without any notion of waking up anytime soon. After the danger was removed, Long Yi and others began raiding, first targeting weapons and armors. Altogether they discovered 8 magic implement level weapons including Ruling Greenstone Barbarian Bull had chosen, 10 magic implement level armor, several tens of only second to magic implement level, over 100 saint level, and all others were high level. Lucia chose a bow named Big Nature's Sigh, was also magic implement level weapon. This bow was unknown times more powerful than her current high-level elf bow, but her current strength was insufficient to bring out to play its full might. Unfortunately there wasn't any dark magic wand, so Lang Yu could only held on to her original wand she was using. All of them again picked up fitting armor for themselves. After that all the remaining were swept inside the space ring of Long Yi without leaving behind even a single gold coin. This instant, Long Yi was fully content with his achievement. Now he was one of the richest person in the world. But this complacent didn't last long. He again wore a worried look, because wealth was as useful as fart for dead person. All 4 of them were now trapped inside this secret room. Even after looking right and left, they couldn't find any way out. 2 days later, 4 people were rather more dead than alive. They had searched every inch of this place, but still didn't find any mechanism. Long Yi, can we no longer go out? Lucia leaning on Long Yi's shoulder weakly asked. No, this place definitely have exit. There is no reason to store riches and treasures in a room without exit. Long Yi said while frowning. We searched everywhere past these 2 days, but we still didn't find any exit. Lucia said. Long Yi particularly looked at that azure blue pool in the middle of this secret room, and suddenly recalled how he had come out from that inside dark space. At that time, he had discovered secret path inside the pool, so couldn't it be the same here too? No, we still haven't searched a place. Long Yi said with a smile. Where? Other 3 asked in unison. Long Yi pointed the pool, and said with a smile, we still haven't searched inside the water. Everyone suddenly realized, they truly hadn't searched inside the water. But thinking about it, it was quite strange. They had never heard anyone digging such deep pool inside their secret room. All of you wait here, I will go down to look. Long Yi stood up and said. He remembered seeing dazzling rays of light at the bottom when he had first fallen into the water. The more he thought, more he felt weird. Finished speaking, Long Yi jumped into the water. Honestly speaking, soaking in this water felt extremely comfortable. Perhaps it contains abundant amount of minerals. Long Yi couldn't help but think so inwardly. Long Yi dived deeper, and before long after, he could see that brilliant lights and vibrant colored bottom. After his feet finally landed on the bottom, Long Yi was surprised to find the floor of this deep pool was a layer of thick precious stone. The city lord of this lost city must be too damn rich. Even if you are rich, you should not waste like this. Long Yi had a misgivings inside his heart. He naturally took in these precious stones inside his space ring without any politeness. When Long Yi was putting away energetically, he suddenly saw a transparent point in the bottom of this pool. Long Yi instantly became wild with joy. He believed he found the exit, but after quick scanning, Long Yi was stunned. Fortunately, Lost City, this mysterious place, had given him too many surprises, so he snapped out of it very quickly. As a matter of fact, this transparent thing was not exit, Rather, a transparent crystal coffin nested in the bottom of this pool. What was most unexpected and surprise to him was not coffin, instead person lying inside it. Turns out to be her, Sleeping Beauty. Ah, I wonder if she will wake up if I kiss her? Seeing that beautiful young girl inside the crystal coffin, Long Yi thought inside his heart. This young girl was none other than that elegant and quiet young girl he had seen inside the crystal ball. Long Yi tried to extract this crystal coffin from the bottom of the pool and take along with him, but even after putting forth his strength, he didn't manage to do so. He naturally didn't resign, but this young girl truly gave him too much of a shock. This young girl was clearly the person from thousands of years ago. But till now she however was still lying here peacefully, just like sleeping. Was this young girl really dead? Long Yi couldn't believe it, because she who was inside the crystal coffin was too beautiful, clean and flawless skin, and her face furthermore had a slight blush. No matter how you look, she didn't resemble dead person at all. But perhaps this was also something developed by the civilization of Lost City. Or perhaps they had developed an antiseptic drug or magic item that can perfectly preserve dead people like this. Long Yi carefully looked to see whether he could open this crystal coffin or not. His entire person laid on the top of this crystal coffin. If the cover of crystal coffin had not separated him, then right now his whole body would have pressed down that young girl's body. Just then, Long Yi discovered this crystal coffin's cover had the restriction of unknown magic barrier. Merely a slight magic fluctuation, but even with Long Yi's spirit power and mana, he was not able to break it. Lying on the crystal coffin, Long Yi blankly stared at that extremely beautiful young woman inside. He had urged to take her out from this crystal coffin in his heart. How can I undo this barrier? Long Yi was lost in thought. Looking at this young girl, he unknowingly recalled Sibai, because her body's temperament and Sibai's was extremely alike. Unconsciously, Long Yi recalled the matters that had happened with Sibai bit by bit. Thought of how he had tested his wind element magic inside that holy light barrier she had arranged at that time, which had blown her clothing as a result. Thinking about these, the corner of his mouth unconsciously raised upward. Ah, I'm so stupid, my internal force can absorb mana. Ah. Long Yi screamed inside his heart. In the first place, at that time, he had easily passed through the holy light barrier Sibai had arranged. Thinking up to here, Long Yi got excited. He silently circulated internal force all over his body. As expected, he felt that barrier was loosening, but also felt he wouldn't be able to open it in a short time. He feared Lang Yu and others would worry. So he decided to go up first and tell them. He didn't believe that he would not be able to open this crystal coffin. Seeing Long Yi come out in the surface of water, the worried expression of three people relaxed. What happened? You dived down for a long time, we were worried to death. Luzia lovingly said. I found something underneath, and was studying it. Long Yi mischievously laughed and said. What is it? Is it exit? Lang Yu immediately asked. Hey. Wait for a while and you will know. That thing needs some time, so I came up to let you know. Don't get worried. Long Yi said. What the hell is that thing? Why are you laughing so badly? Luzia doubtfully asked. You will know in the future. Long Yi said with a smile, then again dived down. Chapter 71, Perverted Thief. Long Yi laid over the crystal coffin just like an octopus, and his internal force slowly absorb and assimilate this crystal coffin's strange magic barrier. He truly admired the caster of this barrier. You should know that Long Yi could break level 10 holy light barrier magic as easy as blowing off the dust. However, it took so much time to break this crystal coffin's magic barrier. One could well imagine how much more powerful the caster of this barrier was. Caster could be comparable to Archmage, or perhaps magic god. Unconsciously, Long Yi unexpectedly entered meditation state underwater, so did not discover pale blue rays of light that began to appear on the crystal coffin, and the waters around it was slowly being pushed away. Now the 4 or 5 meters space around crystal coffin changed into a waterless space. Suddenly, the pale blue rays of light on crystal coffin flashed, and instantly disappeared again, and the cover of crystal coffin actually began to slowly melt, becoming thinner and thinner. Finally, The crystal coffin's cover disappeared, and Long Yi, who was lying on the cover, naturally fell down, pressing down the body of young girl lying in the coffin, and his lips coincidentally made a contact with young girl's pink lips. Long Yi immediately woke up, and before he opened his eyes, he smelled extremely good fragrance of young girl, which was fresh and simple but elegant, similar to orchid fragrance. When he opened his eyes, he saw bright and clean just like jade forehead and also her long eyelashes. This moment he felt something soft below him, and even fool would know his body was pushing down a woman. Long Yi didn't move, his lips still pasted on young girl's pink lips, not because of his desire for beauty, rather because he was stupefied. And he was not stupefied like this because he found himself pressing down the crystal coffin's young girl's body, but was stupefied because he unexpectedly felt heartbeat coming through that soft place in his chest. Bang bang, bang bang. Long Yi was somewhat doubtful and felt as if he was dreaming. Suddenly, he had a kind of sensation that the rate of that heartbeat unexpectedly become more and more similar to his own heartbeat rate. Finally, the rhythm of heartbeat was so matched that he was unable to differentiate his own and this young girl's heartbeat. Two hearts correspond to each other in such strange circumstance. Pang bang, both of their heartbeat as if a single person's heart. Suddenly, the tightly closed two eyes of young girl opened. Her eyes were such deep limpid eyes, just like a water of clear brook that could make people feel ashamed of one's inferiority. Young girl stared Long Yi's almost within reach two eyes, first was at a loss, next was suspicious, and then eyes finally flashed with intimate expression. Only at this moment, Long Yi snapped out from his daze, and he immediately propped up his body, but the faint fragrance was still lingering in his mouth. "Are you all right?" Young girl opened her mouth. Her voice was clear and melodious, just like that of golden oriole. "It sounds very comfortable." Long Yi was stunned, but still very reluctantly climb off from the body of this young girl. That soft touch was still lingering in his memory. Young girl sat up, looked around with her autumn eyes, and lightly knit her elegant brows as if she was trying to recall something. "Can you tell me who am I?" After a long time, this young girl lifted up her body, and rubbing her head, she asked Long Yi. Long Yi was dumbfounded. If even she herself didn't know who she was, then how would he know? "You don't know me?" The autumn eyes of this young girl immediately became cold, and the temperature around also reduced by quite a few degrees. Long Yi was struck dumb with amazement as he retreated 2 steps. He sensed vast and boundless amount of strong water element magic fluctuation from the body of this young girl. She was so young in age, but could it be that she was already Master Archmage? "I definitely know you," Long Yi said with a wry smile. "You shameless perverted thief, I will kill you." This young girl began to silently chant incantation. Powerful water magic element insanely gathered, and the water inside the pool began to roll about. Long Yi was so startled that his whole body was drenched with cold sweat. Such powerful mana, if he let her fire this magic, then he would be goner. His figure flashed and disappeared from this location, instantly appearing behind this young girl. Then he pinched the neck of this young girl with his big hand, interrupting her chanting. "Don't be so impulsive. Impulsive is devil. Here I saved you, but you are treating me, your savior, like this after you regain consciousness?" Long Yi wiped cold sweat in his forehead and said. But just at that time, blue light flashed from the body of this young girl and a powerful thrust sent Long Yi flying, and many light blue-colored barriers appeared around her body. "You saved me?" this young girl coldly asked. "If I hadn't saved you, then you would still be lying inside this coffin in this all-black, no daylight place," Long Yi said with a wry smile. "Humphrey, do you expect me to believe you?" This young girl practically gnashed her teeth. She had woken up without any memory, and thought that this man who was pushing down her body was her husband, but who would have thought that he actually was stranger? This truly couldn't be forgiven. "There is no other choice but to believe in me, and if you kill me you will also die." Rolling his eyes, Long Yi lightly said. This young girl kept on coldly watching Long Yi. She obviously hadn't believed his words. Long Yi mischievously laughed. I used a kind of secret magic to wake you up from your millennium-long slumber. Now both of us are sharing a life. If you do not believe, then calm down and feel your heart." "Millennium's long slumber?" Young girl was rather stupefied. Then looking at that crystal coffin, she subconsciously believed it. Two people dumbly look face to face, and both of them felt an invisible spirit connection between them. Ping ping, ping ping. Both hearts were beating in identical rhythm. A kind of feeling as if she and this man before her eyes was inseparable single entity appeared in her heart. Young girl withdraw that light blue barriers around her body, and lightly sighed. Her expression become indifferent and tranquil again. "You really don't remember anything?" Seeing she had eliminated her hostility, Long Yi asked. He was extremely curious to know how much more splendid the magic civilization of Lost City was. Young girl shook her head, then said, "My mind is blank without anything." Long Yi thought for a bit, then took out that crystal ball he had found in City Lord Mansion from his space ring, then threw it to her and said, "Look at this, perhaps you might remember something." This young girl caught crystal ball, and instinctively sent mana into it. After that she blankly looked at that garden and herself inside the crystal ball, then creasing her brows, she spared no effort to remember. "So familiar, but I am still unable to remember anything." This young girl faintly sighed, and looked disappointed. "Slowly think about it later, you have slept for so long, so forgetting is very natural thing," Long Yi said with a smile. As a matter of fact, he basically didn't know whether this was a reason or not, but for now he could only think about this, and this reason could also comfort her. Young girl nodded her head. Her current gentle and tranquil temperament could involuntarily make people intoxicated. There was not even a trace of that ice-cold killing intent on her of just a moment ago. Some people says women were born with versatile nature. It seems this really was true. "Let's go up first. I have some companions above." Long Yi interrupt young girl's thoughts. Chapter 72, Where Am I? Just when Long Yi and this young girl was about to go up, his vision casually landed on the crystal coffin embedded on the floor of this pool. Suddenly, he felt the bottom of this coffin was somewhat unusual. "Wait a minute," Long Yi said. He squatted down and very carefully examined. This transparent coffin's bottom had an indistinct fog-like thing floating, and under it was not solid. "Exit." This word appeared in the mind of Long Yi, and he immediately got agitated. "What are you feeling for?" Seeing Long Yi was feeling left and right inside the crystal coffin she was lying for unknown number of years, this young girl couldn't help but become somewhat shy and angry. Long Yi raised his head and said with a smile, "Don't misunderstand, I am looking for exit." "Exit?" Suddenly, this young girl was startled, and as if she remembered something, she blankly looked at that crystal coffin, then with the sudden wave of her jade hand, light blue rays of light entered the crystal coffin. After that the bottom of crystal coffin flipped over, revealing a pitch-black big hole. "Exit, really is exit, you are a really good person," Long Yi excitedly shouted loudly, and he actually couldn't help but hug that young girl and kiss on her face. "You bastard." This young girl shivered, and yelling angrily, used freezing technique to freeze Long Yi into ice sculpture. Long Yi made a wry smile, and he knew that he had his head turned by success. He released his internal force, to shatter the ice cubes around his body. This young girl was surprised seeing Long Yi's move, but when she was thinking of teaching Long Yi another lesson, the ground began to shake violently all of a sudden. This young girl staggered and fell in the bosom of Long Yi. But this moment, Long Yi however had no mood to take advantage of this chance, as this violent shaking made him aware that current situation was anything but reassuring. "We have to leave this place quickly, because this place is collapsing. Wait for me here, I will go up and call my companions down." Long Yi stabilized the body of this young girl, and said. After finished speaking, he immediately rushed upward very quickly. Long Yi bore out the surface of water. Just then a large piece of stone was falling down towards him from above. He shouted loudly and sent this rock flying with a punch, then yelled towards Ling Yuyu and other two who were in the process of dodging stones, "Quickly dive into water, exit is underneath." Leng Yue and others immediately jumped inside the water without any hesitation, and for increasing the speed of diving down, Long Yi used all of his strength. He used his Outianju to its limit to take 3 people to the bottom of this pond at full speed. Many stones had already fallen into the pool, and many more was quickly chasing after him. This increased the pressure on Long Yi. Quick! After arriving on the bottom, Long Yi and all others immediately got into the passage under the crystal coffin. After that, the stones pieces falling down quickly filled up this whole pool. Long Yi and others appeared outside the city lord mansion of Lost City and was able to saw light once again, but they still didn't have time to breathe, because they discovered heaven was falling and earth was rending. Entire Lost City was beginning to sink, and the ground was undulating just like sea waves, capsizing and burying all the things. Long Yi casted several gale technique in succession in everyone's body, then the crowd began to quickly run as if their life depend on it. This moment all of them didn't have any other thoughts, except running away from this hellish place with all their might. If Long Yi used Great Cosmos Shift with all his might, then he could have escaped without any problem, but with his heavy sentiment and heavy righteousness nature, how could he abandon Leng Yue and others, and escape by himself? Long Yi carried Luzia under his one arm and pulled Barbarian Bull with another hand. As for Leng Yue and that young girl, they were using float technique and closely following behind. Just then, more than 10-meter-tall surging earth wave approached them nearer and nearer. If Long Yi didn't increase his speed again, then all of them would be buried underground. Long Yi, let me go. It's okay. Luzia rather helplessly as well as earnestly said. She didn't want to implicate her beloved, causing him to get buried alive with her. Boss, let go of me too and escape by yourself. Barbarian Bull struggled as he said this word boss. He always wanted to call, but because of discrimination Beastmen clan were subjected to by humans, he was always afraid to call it out. Just shut up. You too. What kind of man do you think I, Long Yi, am? I will never abandon my companions and escape by myself. Long Yi firmly gritted his teeth as he said, if in this moment he abandoned his woman and brother, then he would be worse than a beast. Leng Yue looked at Long Yi's that tall and straight view of back, and hearing his resounding pledge, the rim of her eyes couldn't help but moisten. As a woman, what else was there that was more happy matter compared to having such man? That young girl at the side was also rather stupefied watching Long Yi. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Even if he had to die, he would not abandon his woman and brother. She could feel Long Yi's heart, that determination to adhere his chosen course, and she could even feel that his heart's that regret and warmth. Soon that soaring huge earth wave was about to bury everyone, and just at that time, this young girl faintly sighed, then a white light suddenly burst out of the bracelet on her wrist enveloping 5 people, and instantly disappearing from that place. On a small hill over 10 li away, 5 people were standing and looking at Lost City, which didn't have any remnant, with different expression. Recalling the circumstance of that time now, Long Yi still felt the lingering fear. Fortunately this young girl used bracelet with sealed space magic, instantly teleporting them to this place. Otherwise he feared he would be unable to see this beautiful sun and breathe this fresh air. Alive, truly damn refreshing, Long Yi yelled inside his heart. Long Yi, is Hale still in there? Luzia whispered. Long Yi's dashing eyebrows rose. Right now that guy ought to be dead inside the Lost City. Lost Yi didn't feel sorry at all. If he had also recklessly rushed in just like Barbarian Bull and others, then he might be still alive with them. Luzia saw Long Yi unresponsive, so angrily said, without Hale's map, how can we get out of this Huangming plain? Long Yi suddenly understand. As a matter of fact Luzia was talking about this, then he lightly said with a smile, what are you afraid of? Your man, I am still here. So why are you fearing that we will not be able to go out from this small Huangming plain? Looking at her beloved's brash expression, Luzia couldn't help but felt ecstatic. She leaned on Long Yi's bosom, and muttered, as long as you are here, I'm not afraid of anything. At this time, Barbarian Bull was sitting on the ground, and was gently wiping his ruling greenstone. From the moment he had obtained this magic weapon, his thoughts were completely on it. Lang Yuiu suddenly pulled Long Yi's sleeve. "What happened?" Long Yi asked. Lang Yuiu pointed towards that young girl. Only then Long Yi began to discover this young girl was blankly watching towards the ruins of Lost City. Two sparkling and crystal clear teardrops slide down from her eyes. Why is my heart feeling so painful?" This young girl mumbled and looked lost. Long rather understood, although she had forgotten all the things, but the blood of Lost City still flows inside her body, and her home was this Lost City. Long Yi stepped forward, took out a piece of silk from inside his space ring and gave it to her. But this young girl didn't take it, and after looking towards Long Yi, the tears on her face instantly disappeared and her expression reverted back to previous indifference again, as if that tearful-eyed girl of just a moment ago was merely Long Yi's misperception. "That is your home, and seeing this, you ought to be broken-hearted, so no one will laugh at you." Long Yi shrugged his shoulder, and not minding, he withdrew that silk piece as he said. That young girl however shook her head, and indifferently said, "That is not my home, I already don't have home." "Who said you don't have home? My home is your home, did you forget our connection?" Long Yi said with a smile. This young girl blankly stared Long Yi and asked, "Then where is your home?" At this moment, Lang Yuiu and Luzia also quite curiously looked at Long Yi, as both of them were also curious about where Long Yi was from. The question of this young girl however dumbfounded Long Yi. He lifted his head and looked towards the sky, where wind condors circling in the sky, and spoke after a silence of long time. "Higher than condor could fly, have son's place called home and daughter can walk far away, have parents' place called home, and my home, in the end of the world." This young girl felt Long Yi's light sentimental, and automatically the feeling of fellow sufferers empathizing each other appeared inside her heart. Now looking towards Long Yi, her eyes were no longer ice cold as before. The eyes of Lang Yuiu and Luzia were already red, and they hugged Long Yi's left and right arm respectively. Chapter 73, Mi Holy Magic Academy. Violent Dragon Empire, Soaring Dragon City, Kuang Long Empire, Tanglong City. Midnight, a shadow silently appeared in the mansion of Ziman clan. Just like a ghost, he quickly evaded one group after another group of patrol guards, and finally arrived outside Clan Master Ziman Nu's study. Then he knocked the door in a very peculiar rhythm. "Enter." Ziman Nu's dignified voice came from inside the study. 13th Skynet pays respect to Clan Master. After this shadow entered, he immediately kneeled down in one knee, then respectfully said. Ziman Nu still sat and wrote at a tremendous speed without lifting his head. Only after a long time, he asked, "Did you find the whereabouts of little young master?" Answering Clan Master, "Several months ago, we discovered little young master in Light City. There he registered with a group of mercenary to go to Huangming Plain for a class mission called Mission of Lost City, currently unknown whereabouts." According to the news from Light City, little young master and eldest daughter of Phoenix clan had come in contact with each other, with ambiguous relation between them. Furthermore, the strength of little young master has already reached Sword Master realm. This shadow replied precisely and clearly. Ziman Nu's writing hand paused, and the expression in his eyes fluctuated. Then he said, "Continue searching, and if you discover the whereabouts of little young master, immediately report me." This shadow answered and disappeared from inside the study, and Ziman Nu stood up and strolled inside the study. Then he sighed deeply. You were, until now your father always thought you were ignorant and incompetent, didn't expect you actually concealed yourself so deeply." Ziman clan had stand tall among the power of Violent Dragon Empire for thousands of years, so their power was complicated and very tricky. Being a big official aristocrat had tied them with this boat, and their secret power had seized every opportunity to spread all over Violent Dragon Empire's each corner and every industry. A person's mind was infinite, and was also most difficult to satisfy. If it was said that Ziman Nu didn't have any idea towards the title of emperor, then that would absolutely be a lie. But Ziman Nu was man with great sight, and was waiting for an opportunity, and now he had seen a slight hope. Because of the magician incident of Huangming's small town, the relation between Proud Moon Empire, Aoyu Empire, and Nelan Empire was extremely tense. Both sides were frequently moving weapons, and the war might break out at any moment. What Zimenu wanted to do was very simple. As long as he poured oil in this height of anger to make it burn even more prosperously, Violent Dragon Empire as one of the three big empire would inevitably get involved in it, and he can take advantage of that time's disorder to rise up. He believed that relying on the power in his hand, wanting to aim at the title of emperor was also not without possibility. Zimenu walked to the side of window and sighed. He was not flourishing with sons, only had Zimintian and Zimenu, these two sons. Normally speaking, clan master position ought to be passed down to Zimintian, but Zimintian's mother was merely the young lady of ordinary clan. Originally he, Zimenu, was also silk pants just like Zimenu, and at that time he played around with a young miss of an ordinary clan, causing her to have a big belly, so against his will with no other alternative, he made her his concubine. Although oldest son Zimintian was highly talented, but was narrow-minded who can't consider big matters. Later he married Dongfang clan's eldest daughter as his primary wife, then had Zimenu, this ignorant and incompetent silk pants young master. Zimenu showed favoritism to Zimenu. Everybody of Zimin clan knows about this. Although he believed Zimenu was ignorant and incompetent, but that day's noble chi and domineeringness nevertheless couldn't be compared by Zimintian. However, he tried to pretend. Zimenu was very like the younger version of himself, not regarding any law and natural mortality, unexpectedly even daring to princess. Thinking of this, Zimenu's dignified face showed a rare smile. This boy truly was green than blue and better than blue. He again thought Zimenu had actually secretly cultivate to the rank of sword master, and had also dared to go deep into Huangming Plain for that mission of Lost City. He very clearly knew this Huangming Plain, and his son had dared to go there had made him very happy. Although he was also somewhat worried about his safety, but he however believed that his son was not that unlucky enough to die there. As for the next clan master of Zimin clan, Zimenu had long ago already selected inside his heart. The sun was shining brightly, and warm gentle breeze was blowing, making people feel better. On a public road outside Soaring Dragon City, a cavalry regiment was escorting a luxurious carriage towards Distance Place. Those blood-red suit of armor on the body of cavalrymen reflect dazzling rays of light, and that dense killing intent made people walk out of its way one after another, and none of them dared to look at them twice. Wow, who is so imposing, actually being escorted by bloody battle cavalry of Violent Dragon Empire's army group? A passerby, shivering due to that ice-cold killing intent seeped into his bone marrow, asked. Second passerby snorted while looking down upon him, and said, "Ignorant, can't you see royal family crest on the carriage? The person inside must be either prince or princess. Also only the direct line of royal family member are qualified to be escorted by bloody battle cavalry." Two idiots, you don't even know this. The person sitting inside the carriage naturally are little Princes Longlinger and Ms. Zimenwuan. They are going to me Holy Magic Academy to study. After hearing first passerby, third passerby proudly said, "Princess Longlinger, can it be the same person who was raped by Zimin clan's young master?" First passerby asked. This second passerby and third passerby instantly jumped back, and had an expression of "I don't recognize this person" on their face. Just when the first passerby was unable to make head or tail out of it, he was restrained by two people who looked like a soldier and was taken away. As a matter of fact, gossiping about royalty or wealthy and influential clan in leisure time didn't matter, but the issue was Longlinger stayed depressed in the palace. Moreover, due to all the talks in the streets filled with the matter of Zimenu raping her, her mood became worse and she became even more depressed, and finally fell gravely ill, never to recover. So Emperor Longzhan handed down an imperial edict: any person that talks about this matter again, whoever they were, all without exception would be imprisoned for 10 days, moreover would also be whipped as a punishment, and in addition they had to pay fine too. Inside the luxurious carriage, Longlinger and Zimenwuan sat on either side. Longlinger was as beautiful as ever, merely a lot thinner, and her face completely lacked expression. Both eyes were even more ice-cold, as if 10,000 years cold ice. Now she was silently leaning against a soft cushion, unknown what she was thinking. Seeing the appearance of Longlinger, Zimenwuan lightly sighed inside her heart. Zimenwu truly committed a sin. He made Longlinger, who was originally filled with haughtiness, into this body without soul. She clearly felt the heart of Longlinger was being sealed more and more firmly, and as her best friend, she had heart but was powerless to anything. Linger, what type of institute do you think Me Holy Magic Academy is? Zimenwuan found a topic to talk. She really didn't want Longlinger to become this more dead than alive appearance. Longlinger raised her eyelids, and said indifferently, "What type? It ought to be that type. I heard Fire Master Archmage Puziusi also give lesson personally. I don't know when we will reach such level." Zimenwuan slightly smiled. She knew that only if she mentioned magic, a trace of vitality would appear on the body of Longlinger. "Absolutely will. There will come a day when I will surpass him." A trace of spirit appeared on the frozen eyes of Longlinger. Now she pursued only magic inside her heart, and perhaps also a hatred buried deep down inside her heart, and making a mincemeat out of Zimenwu. That beast ought to be her biggest dream outside magic. Me Holy Magic Academy was Blue Wave's continent's, Kanglan continent, best magic institute built 800 years ago. Although Me was only one small nation, but Me Holy Magic Academy nevertheless was this nation's pride. In 800 years, this academy had cultivated countless outstanding magicians and swordsmen for Blue Wave's continent. Fire Master Archmage Puziusi was this institute's dean, and among the reason why Me stand tall throughout the frequent wars of Blue Wave's continent, this Me Holy Magic Academy plays extremely key role. Before Longlinger and Zimenwuan went to Violet Dragon Empire's Magic Academy only in name, but they had specialized teacher to guide them. All of them were Archmage Realm Court magicians. This time Longlinger suddenly wanted to go to Me Holy Magic Academy to study, and because Zimenwuan was worried about her, she had no other choice but to accompany her. Under the protection of Bloody Battle Cavalry Regiment, luxurious carriage quickly head forward. With the gradual proceeding of time wheel, the entire world, regardless of how misgivings threw away a one expect of a matter in other side of horizon. Chapter 74, Icy Wind Mercenary Group. Vast Huangming Plain, setting sun as if blood, severe wind as if blade, pungent bloody smell was floating around freely, and continuous layer upon layer piles of magical beast corpse was visible all over the place. In a distant place, 5 people, 2 beasts, and 18 skeletons were going out through the corpse piles. Impressively they were Longyi and his group, followed by not only violent lightning beast, but also one half black and half white tiger. As a matter of fact, gluttonous little 3 had woken up from its sleep. Now it was twice as much bigger compared to its former size, and with its 1 black and 1 white eyeballs as if a vortex. It looked very strange. Now it can cast some elementary light and dark magic, but magical beast with both light and dark mana simultaneously was simply something unheard of. Sure enough, Longyi as a freak, took in a freak pet. Longyi, we have again charged inside the lair of magical beasts. When will we be able to come out of Huangming Plain? Luzia said in low spirit. It was already 1 month after they had escaped Lost City. But without the map of Huangming Plain, they had to spend their every day in killing as there was too many magical beasts in Huangming Plain. Although with SS-class violent lightning beast, ordinary lone and crowd of magical beasts would avoid them, but the awareness of magical beast towards their territory was very strong, and especially those thousands upon thousands gathered together group, they were too much. Just step into their territory, and they would begin to attack madly until all of them thoroughly died. Very soon. The general direction we are walking towards is more or less correct, so after walking few more days, we ought to reach border of Proud Moon Empire. Longyi encouraged her with a smile. He didn't select the same path to return back, rather select a completely different path. Throughout the journey, They had killed countless magical beasts of various class, but he however was too lazy to go and dug out magic core, because he already didn't know how to use all those magic cores already inside his space ring. Sky gradually dimmed, and temperature also fell. Long Yi found a place to camp, lit a bonfire and began to prepare dinner. The edibles they had prepared inside their space ring had already ran out long ago, and the edible things of Huangming Plain generally was only magical beasts' meat. These few days, Long Yi had used various methods to cook these magical beasts' meat, such as roasting, frying, stewing, boiling, burning, and so on. Fortunately Long Yi's skill was pretty good as he had used all these cooking method in his previous incarnation. After eating his dishes everyone only sung the praises of his cooking skills. As for Violent Lightning Beast and Little Three, these two big eater ate even larger amount of food. Elder sister Wash Wang, what book are you reading again? Lucia restlessly ran towards Wash Wang. Wash Wang was the name of Sleeping Beauty Long Yi had come up with. At that time when he saw her that exceptional appearance and disposition, unconsciously 4 words unparalleled in the world appeared in his mind, so gave her a name Wash Wang. T.L. Wash Wang means unparalleled. Wash Wang slightly smiled, closed her book and said, reading the general history of Blue Wave's continent. I think this might help me to remember something. Her nature was very quiet, and didn't have many words. Every time when they rest, she would look for Long Yi for books. Every time she read books, the gaze of everyone would be unconsciously attracted towards her. That quiet and cool feeling easily affect others, and looking at her reading was also a kind of enjoyment. Big sister Wash Wang, you be at ease. You will definitely remember all things. Lucia encouraged her. Wash Wang nodded her head, and again immersed in the sea of books. Currently Long Yi was fully occupied, but what would cause others roar with laughter was Long too, as this skeleton was in the process of giving support to Long Yi by quickly cutting the magical beast's meat under the command of Long Yi. Among the necromancer throughout the ages, only Long Yi would think up to use skeletons to cut the ingredient of food. At this time, Wash Wang, who was entranced in reading book, frowned, then closing the book, she said, someone is coming. Hearing Wash Wang, everyone were dumbfounded. Big sister Wash Wang, you said someone is coming, not magical beast is coming, right? Lucia asked blankly. This time Wash Wang didn't need to answer, because specks of magic radiance's lights appeared at a distant point. Looking at the area covered and quantity, there should be at least several hundred people, presumably a medium-sized mercenary group. This mercenary group stopped at some distance away, after that walked directly towards Long Yi's group campsite. They ought to be attracted by the light of their bonfire, and came here. Long Yi recall Long Tu inside the dark dimension space. Right now the dinner was also almost ready. Very quickly after a short time, that mercenary group appeared in front of Long Yi and his group. There was approximately 500 of them with various profession, and all of them were riding unicorn. No wonder their speed was so fast. They stopped, and all of them blankly looked at Leng Yuyu and other 2 women in a daze. These mercenaries who stayed with the edge of sword and tasted the bloods had never seen such outstanding beauties, but now however they saw 3 at once, so they were naturally stunned. Wash Wang couldn't help but got angry seeing that she was being stared by so many people with such expression on their eyes. Her face sunk, and the temperature around instantly reduced by quite a few degrees. These mercenaries woke up all of a sudden, but don't know who took the lead to blow a whistle, but instantly teasing sound and whistle sound unceasingly resounded, and the middle-aged man in the front with mercenary leader badge and young magician with vice leader badge not only not stopped them, but they also stared at these 3 women's sensitive places with unconcealed expression in their eyes. Long Yi also smiled very brilliantly, but his eyes however was filled with dense killing intent. These sons o' bitches actually dare have an idea to hit his women, really tired of living. Humphrey Wash Wang snorted coldly, then lightly raised her jade hand and waved at a piece of snow-white world. Several dozen of people in front including horses instantly changed into ice sculpture. The leader of this mercenary group noticed the attack, so quickly pulling the vice leader, he successfully dodged. Worthy of having the strength of great swords master. All the mercenaries who were continuously teasing without exception became mute, and looked at Wash Wang with terrified expression. Long Yi knew the might of her freeze-over skill. This rank 9 water magic compared to rank 5 chilly ice skill was more powerful. Moreover, what was Wash Wang's level? Perhaps if fighter profession rescued timely, then they could be rescued, but other profession was already destined to die. Long Yi walked in front with smile on his face, then with towering above others look, he sized up these crowds as if they were nobodies. The strongest among them was that leader with the strength of great sword master, and one middle-aged earth magician with the strength of mage. Everyone else could be ignored. Misunderstanding. This is merely a misunderstanding. We Icy Wind mercenary group absolutely don't have any malice. That mercenary leader squeezed out a smile of goodwill in his face, and said, looking at that young girl's means just a moment ago, and again looking at these 2 men and 3 women with anger all across their face, it seems they ran into a hard bone. I got it, only a misunderstanding, then let us also bring misunderstanding to you. Long Yi smiled, but his eyes however were growing ice cold. Just then, that fire magician with the vice leader badge pushed away this leader and arrogantly said, Your mother, do you know who I am? I am Proud Moon Empire's 3rd Imperial Prince. I took fancy to your woman. That alone is already thinking highly of you. That leader inwardly knew that there was nothing good even after knowing that matter, so he signaled to launch an attack, thinking to strike first and gain the upper hand. Long Yi's palm slashed out the void in the direction of this self-important 3rd Imperial Prince. The side's leader saw the current situation was far from good. He immediately appeared in front of this 3rd Prince, and was able to successfully block Long Yi's slash only after falling back more than 10 steps. As expected, Great Sword Master's strength was powerful more than 1 grade compared to the strength of Sword Master. Exterminate them, leave none behind. Long Yi roared full of killing intent, and this moment, Icy Wind mercenary group had already launched the attacks. The magic attack covering the sky fell to the ground. Long Yi and Barbarian Bull however rushed forward without looking back regardless of anything. Barbarian Bull cultivated Shelline Golden Bell Canopy and hidden magic rod taught by Long Yi, so his strength rose very quickly. With one swing of ruling greenstone, more than 10 swordsmen in front were forced to retreat. Among them, one had his chest smashed into a concave. Moreover, Barbarian Bull was already beginning to get excited. Every day this entire month, Barbarian Bull had spent time by slaughtering. Now he would get excited seeing a blood, and his entire body would be covered with gloomy and cold killing intent which would make people shudder. But just when Long Yi and Barbarian Bull began to attack energetically, suddenly a burst of unusually strong magic fluctuation came. The temperature abruptly dropped by several tens of degrees, as if the world become world of ice and snow in an instant. Long Yi pulled Barbarian Bull and used Great Cosmos Shift to instantly rush out from the battlefield, leaving behind his afterimage. Immediately after that, a sudden change in a situation occurred. That is, concentrated big and small hailstones descend from the heaven. The 500 people of Icy Wind mercenary group was instantly reduced to 2 or 3 people. Only these few people had quickly used magic barrier to avoid the fate of being crushed to death. But don't tell me those few people were safe? Certainly not. Wash Wang had used rank 10 magic, the world of ice and snow. Those remaining people were frozen into popsicle. Long Yi exclaimed in surprise. He discovered that garbage calling himself 3rd Prince of Proud Moon Empire was still safe and sound inside brownish yellow-colored barrier, and was running away currently. Barbarian Bull wanted to pursue, but Long Yi stopped him with a mischievous smile. He released spirit power and began to stir up lightning magic elements in the atmosphere. Black clouds gathered, and huge pressure filled the entire heaven and earth. Suddenly, from the black clouds, an arm-wide lightning struck right at the magic barrier around running 3rd Prince. This 3rd Prince's whole body felt numb, even though the magic barrier was still intact. But then again several lightning struck him in quick succession, causing that magic barrier around the body of 3rd Prince to finally break into pieces, and his entire body changed into a piece of charcoal, then straightly fell down on the ground. But just then, his that burned black body suddenly flashed with green light, and flying quickly disappeared in the horizon. Chapter 75. How is dropping red a heartless thing? Seeing that green light that disappeared instantly, an ominous premonition appeared in Long Yi's mind, as he asked, who knows what damnable thing was that green light? Barbarian Bull and Luzia absently shook their head, however Lang Yui lightly knitted her elegant eyebrows, and was lost in thought. Yui, what are you thinking? Do you know what that was? Long Yi patted Lang Yui's fragrant shoulder and asked. Lang Yui snapped out of her trance, then nodding her head, she said, if I'm not mistaken, that was a kind of living creature called Kingfisher Magic Bird. Its flying speed is extremely fast. It is sealed inside the body of human, so that once the host dies, it would fly back to inform. Kingfisher Magic Bird? Never heard about this sort of living creature. Luzia, have you ever heard about it? Long Yi asked. Luzia shook her head and replied, I have also never heard about it. Very few people know about this kind of bird. As far as I know, only Dark Church have this kind of bird, so how can Proud Moon Empire also possess it? Lang Yui said. All the core members of Dark Church had this Kingfisher Magic Bird sealed inside their body, and she was no exception. Long Yi pondered for a little while, then analyzed. If Kingfisher Magic Bird is really possessed only by Dark Church like you said, then there is only two possibilities. One possibility is Dark Pope is in fact person of Proud Moon Empire's royalty, and another possibility is Proud Moon Empire and Dark Church collude with each other. Then what should we do? Luzia asked. Long Yi shrugged his shoulder and said with a smile, what's to be done? Whether they collude or they are same family, it doesn't involve us. As long as they don't provoke us, it's enough. 10 days later, Proud Moon Empire's Frost Maple City. This was the nearest large city from Huangming Plain, was very flourishing. Right now the sun was already setting beyond the western hills, and the bright red sunset glow looked very beautiful. Frost Maple City's stream of people had reached peak of today. Everywhere was crowd of people bustling with activities. On the public road outside city gate, there were many vendors stall and peddlers, boisterously meeting those arriving, and sending off those departing. 5 figures suddenly appeared on this public road, and because of the setting sun, the length of their shadows were very long. Instantly, they attracted the gaze of everyone, because this group was truly a peculiar combination. A dazzling youth garbed in brocade clothing, a beastman clan fighter with fierce-looking face, and 3 face-covered with veil females with enchanting figure, moreover 2 lovable strange pet following behind them. Wash Wang quite unusually size up all side structures and various types of shops. She found everything very new. Finally found a decent city. Now let's look for an interest and reorganize. Long Yi sighed. They had rolled about for half a year in Huangming Plain, and were soon about to go insane. After finding the most luxurious inn in Frost Maple City, Long Yi threw out a bag full of amethyst card, no minding the surprised look of other people at all. Now the thing he didn't lack the most was money, and he feared he won't be able to completely spend them. Long Yi closed his eyes and laid inside Big Bathroom's bathtub, then relaxed his nerves which were tensed for a long time. Soft magic lamp shone upon dense steam, making entire surrounding bewildering. This was just as the current state of Long Yi's mind. It had been less than a year since he had arrived in this unfamiliar world, however he had already gone through test of life and death, had a brother and several intimate women, and had riches which other people were too inferior to even compare. Sometimes he himself also felt inconceivable, and thought the current circumstance was merely a kind of dream or illusion. Bathroom's door silently opened, and an exquisite figure lightly walked up to Long Yi. Then idiotically watching his handsome leisurely face, her jade hand pressed his temple and softly rubbed it. Long Yi didn't open his eyes. From the second she had entered bathroom, he had already knew who she was. Only Luzia, this little elf, had that lavender-like pure and fresh fragrance. Little elf, if you have something to say to me, then say it. Long Yi softly said without opening his eyes. Lucia's both hands shook. Then she softly said, "Eng." "Then say it, what else is there that shouldn't be said between us?" Long Yi said with a light chuckle. Lucia withdrew her hands, remained silent for a long time, and said, "Let's talk about it later. First, can you open your eyes?" Long Yi opened his eyes, and he impressively saw Lucia wrapped around in a piece of bathrobe, her white arms all bared outside, and her beautiful face was very red as if sunset glow, emitting amazing allure. Seeing Long Yi had opened his eye, Lucia raised her jade hands, then lightly pulled down the silk ribbon of her bathrobe. Long Yi's breathing stagnated, both of his eyes shone with profound dim light, and he fixedly staring at Lucia's that glittering and translucent, pure and limpid, extremely beautiful. On the top of plump, awkwardly large, two proudly standing upright pearl were indistinctly visible in the midst of steam, as if inviting him to savor to his heart's content. "Am I beautiful?" Seeing Long Yi infatuated looking at her naked body, Lucia was embarrassed and again was proud. Her body was his, her heart was also his, and everything else were also his. Beautiful, even more beautiful than fairy. Long Yi praised, while his passionate gaze looking her up and down. Lucia charmingly smiled, then turned around twice in front of Long Yi. "Good gracious, when did this girl learn seducing?" Long Yi whispered. The little elf before his eyes, under the catalysis of love, had unexpectedly slowly began to shed off green, and become feminine. Lucia slightly lifted her one jade leg, and placed it inside bathtub. At that instant, the pink ravine between her legs became visible before the eyes of Long Yi. But before Long Yi had enough time to look twice, Lucia had already submerged inside the water lying in his arms. "Long Yi, take me." Lucia closed her eyes and whispered while her little hand gently caressed Long Yi's sturdy chest. Holding a beauty in his arms, Long Yi again was not Liuxiahua, so how could he sit by without any turmoil in his mind? The standing erect thing on the lower part of his body was his honest response of his current state. T.L. Liuxiahua was a man of eminent virtue, and is said on one occasion to have held a lady in his lap without the slightest imputation on his moral character. Copied from Wikipedia. Lucia's small hand slowly slid down, and suddenly caught Long Yi's that burning hot hard on. That burning hot temperature made Lucia slightly quiver all over. "Little elf, what do you think about my weapon?" Long Yi bent over to the side of Lucia's long soft ear, then blew a hot air. "Disgusting." Lucia with red face angrily roared, recalling that enchanting night of Huangming Plain. If not for the case of disappointingly had to pee at that time, she would have become her sweetheart's first woman. Long Yi softly nibbled her sensitive long ear, big hands caressed her those pair of soft, and under his teasing, her small protruding ribbon stiffened. Lucia moaned, and she changed from her usual shyness and become active, no longer passively let Long Yi tease, rather took the initiative to tease Long Yi. Her entire body pressed Long Yi's body, and lost in her messy passion, she kissed Long Yi's neck and chest, and also rubbed her charming body against Long Yi's majestic body. But how could she be Long Yi's opponent? Not long after, she became limp and weak in Long Yi's bosom. Defense and offense instantly trade place. Long Yi pick up Lucia and rush out of bathroom, then kicked open the bedroom's door. After that, lying her on the bed, he strangely cried and threw himself on her, rubbing those full of elasticity, and sucking those small pink cherry. Long Yi's teasing gradually made Lucia muddle-headed. Her misty eyes had flirtatious expression, and a layer of misty pink color appeared on her. Long Yi's big hand slowly slid down, and passing through soft and tender fine hairs, pressed her already wet. "Ah, Long Yi." Lucia's whole body quivered and cried just like a swallow. Both legs which were twitching closed tightly, and her syrup dampened Long Yi's big hand. Have done enough foreplay. Long Yi could no longer restrain himself. His thick and long thing moved forward and broke through obstruction. That symbolized cleanly breaking down a membrane, bursting forth a gorgeous plum blossom. Lucia's jade arms embrace Long Yi's neck, letting this man to move about freely and quickly in her body. That moment when Long Yi have her, She shed tears. She finally became the real woman of her beloved. Now even if they come apart, he will not forget her.